will call to order this Thursday, April 21st, 2022 regular meeting of the College Township Council. I would invite you to join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. At this point, we will accept public open discussion for anything that is not on this evening's agenda. Staff, did we receive any comments prior to the meeting? We did not. Does anyone have anything to discuss with council? Yes, sir.
Gene Bazan, I live on Mary Street in Lamont for the past 30 years. In my note 11, necessary provisions for our wireless communications facility ordinance, I summarized from note 10, 8 key provisions our ordinance must have. These provisions realize 3 objectives. 1, reduce township liability. 2, protect our residents from harmful RF EMR radiation. And 3, provide wireless telecommunication service. None of these provisions appear in the current draft 4. As it stands, this draft is sorely inadequate. A quick look at 2 township residential addresses on the FCC's broadband map shows we are well supplied with service by 8 providers at speeds rendering additional facilities redundant. The top provider, Comcast, using coaxial cable, provides speeds 10 times faster than the next provider, a wireless provider. So we can check off Objective 3, connectivity to broadband, as having been met. Turning to Objectives 1 and 2, liability and protection from harm, Draft 4 is inadequate. Once cell towers and small cells are installed, it will prove difficult, in the extreme, to remove these. I submit 2 recent examples of this difficulty. The first is from Pittsfield, Massachusetts, Board of Health. After 2 years of listening to and investigating complaints from the ill effects residents experienced living near a cell tower, the Board of Health of Pittsfield, Massachusetts issued a cease and desist order on April 11th to Verizon Wireless. From the order, we read that, quote, the negative health symptoms the affected residents have reported include complaints of headaches, sleep problems, heart palpitations, tinnitus, dizziness, nausea, skin rashes, and memory and cognitive problems, among other medical complaints. End of quote. Children were vomiting in buckets put by their beds at night. The outcome of this order is uncertain. While Verizon would be smart to recognize the harms the cell tower is doing, it may dig in its heels and ignore the order or contest it, dragging out over a longer period of time the pain and suffering of residents. The population of Pittsfield is just under 41,000. Second example is an epidemic of atrial fibrillation in Eagle, Idaho. Here, resident Hank Allen, resident of Eagle, describes the onset of multiple bouts of debilitating atrial fibrillation. Some episodes which brought him to the ER, he underwent ablation surgery at a cost of $150,000. By keeping track of where and when his AFib episodes occurred and mapping these, he was able to conclude that the AFib episodes occurred at specific times of the day and at the intersect of where he was during the attack and a straight line between the specific cell tower and a specific small cell, which were communicating with each other. He reached out to fellow residents in Eagle and determined that others had similar time and place experiences. Hank also describes the death of bees on his property. The population of Eagle is just under 20,000. College Township population is just over 10,000. What both examples show is the wisdom of that old adage, an ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure. The first 7 provisions, summarized in Note 11, are necessary to reducing liability and damage to residents' health and well-being. Among these, Provision 1, securing proper liability protection, is perhaps the most important. The present language in Draft 4 simply does not do this. It is occurring to me that College Township, officers and staff, lie in the thrall of the common law group. You're relying on a law firm that A, advised the PA Assembly on the wording of Act 50, and B, earns its living by fitting municipalities into the Act 50 straitjacket. The common law group is not giving you serviceable advice. It reduces your liability and protects residents from painful suffering. You have two options: proceed on your present course or get a second opinion. If you choose the latter, I can supply contact information for other attorneys. In closing, I mentioned provision 8 from my note 11. What if we invited installers to run wire, say coaxial cable or fiber optic cable, from the poles on which the main fiber lines may be strung, that additional short distance to our homes and businesses? We could dispense with small cells totally. We would not need this ordinance or the design manual. Remember, information is Title I under the TCA of 1996, regulatable by the municipality. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. As we're all aware, we'll be seeing our wireless communication facility draft again with some tweaks based on our last discussion at the meeting, but I'm sure staff has recorded your additional comments here and will include those in those discussions.
And I will email you my comments.
Very good. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Does anyone else wish to speak to council on anything not on this evening's agenda? Seeing nor hearing none, do any members of council have any potential new agenda items that they wish to move forward?
I do.
Okay.
I just can't remember what it is.
Okay.
Maybe I'll bring it up under other matters when I.
Is it an action item or is it a discussion item?
No, it's a potential action item. It's for Sylvia Neely's, the email that came through.
Okay.
Through Climate Action Sustainability Committee, the recommendation to add something to our agenda. I'd copied you on it, but.
Right, but it was to put it on a future agenda.
Future agenda.
Okay.
Yeah.
Then it could, yeah, it absolutely can be a
A later
discussion item.
discussion.
Yeah, if we have
Perfect.
consensus.
Thank you.
Then we'll definitely put it on the agenda. So we'll capture that under other matters. Anything else? New agenda matters? Very good. First item is plans, P1 sketch plan, Mosaic Development, Puddintown Road. Who's staff?
Yeah, I can start. So we have Dan and Ethan here from the Mosaic community. They presented a sketch plan to the Planning Commission at their meeting on Tuesday, and tonight is their opportunity to present that to council. A sketch plan is an option in our subdivision and land development ordinance. We have been having them a lot more recently with Jake's Fireworks and some other examples. So they're here tonight to make this presentation, and you can comment if you like.
Great. It's an encouraged option, so thank you. Gentlemen, please.
Not a full plan. We've done a lot of work on it, so it looks a little bit further down, but this is just a sketch plan. We're seeking feedback on it as we proceed kind of to the next level. So thank you, Lindsay. My name is Ethan Wendell. I'm a business owner in town, started a business about 20 years ago called Diamondback Truck Covers. It's over in Phillipsburg, and have lived on Puddintown Road down, well, you can see it if we move the curtains. My house is right over here. I've lived there since 2012. This is Daniel Haverkos. Daniel and his family moved to State College about 9 months ago to assist me with the development project that we're going to present today. That both of our families, I have 5 kids, he has 3 kids, we will be living in this community. So this is a development project that's just down the road. So the Mosaic Community Development Project, there's a couple unique things which we'll walk through today, but I think primarily the most unique is that it really targets to be a diverse community that accommodates different people of different economic statuses. So there will be single family duplex style housing all the way down to sort of 1,000 square foot apartment style housing, all in one community there. So it's unique in that regard, and it really targets kind of a diverse group of people in the development. So just to give everyone an understanding of kind of where this is, so we are right here. This is East College Avenue. This is Puddintown Road that goes back toward Millbrook Marsh. And this is the first sort of area just to the right on Puddintown Road as you head down that direction before you get to Millbrook Marsh, if you were driving from here. So the current site view, whoops, looks like this. If you've done any walking or running down Puddintown Road, there's 4 acres on the right, beautiful acres. There's a Thompson Run stream that runs down through there as well, and that's the area we're talking about. This back area here is where I currently reside, and so when we look at some of the aerials, I'll show you kind of where my current house is because it's adjacent to this property. Okay, so like I said, we're targeting a diverse community that will accommodate basically everything from a 3,600 square foot duplex style house for larger families, some 2,400 square foot apartments for smaller families, and then some 1,000 square foot apartments for individuals or small families on the property. At least 4 of the units will be dedicated workforce housing. We may increase that. We're sort of working with Lindsay and looking at some of the parameters around that. Certainly the units are targeted toward that demographic already, and so we're just trying to look at some of those options as well as handicap accessible units in there as well. The zoning setup that's on the property now, it's really R3 and R1. It's predominantly R3, and I'll show you kind of that layout. As we take the township zoning map and lay it over an actual surveyor map, it picks up a little bit of gateway commercial. I only point that out because in our plan documents you'll see that. That gateway commercial is really designed to be attached to the hotel here, and I just think it bleeds over, so it's really not supposed to be there. But we don't get anywhere close to our impervious limits of R1 or R3, so we just kind of didn't modify that. We left it in there, and I'll show you kind of how that looks. So this area that runs from College Avenue basically up to my house is zoned R3. This area is the gateway commercial that it's designed to hit my property line and stop, but it kind of bleeds over. And then this area back in here is zoned R1. All right, so just some zoning considerations. So the property is substantially R3 already. The plan documents that you have laid out take advantage of a 50-foot buffer zone on that zoning line in a few places. And so as the plans are in your packets, it'll show you sort of original and as developed. So the as developed R3 acres is about 3 acres with a 36% impervious coverage on R3. The as developed R1 acres is 0.49 acres, with a 30% impervious on R1. So well below both of those coverage ratios. The max proposed units, which is the units that we're going to talk about in the plan, targets 3 sort of standard duplex houses, totaling 6 units. A multifamily duplex, which will be a duplex split into 4 apartments, totaling 4 units. 1 multifamily quadplex, totaling 16 units, and a multifamily quadplex totaling 12 units. So kind of looking through the sketch plan and kind of giving an overview of where this is. So this is Puddintown Road down here. This is my house currently. This land is Millbrook Marsh. So just giving people an understanding of where that is. And so the development is basically in this area right here. In future slides, we'll get into sort of the total developed layout, but the developed area is about 1.2 acres, leaving about 2.7 acres of green space on the property. A lot of really looking to maintain the green space along the stream down there. Let's see if I can use this. So these 2 houses back here are just standard duplex. My family will be living in this one, Daniel's in this one. This will be a standard duplex in an R1 zone, single family. This will be the 4-unit duplex apartment. This unit here is basically it's 3 stories, each story with a 1,000 square foot apartment on each, so 16 units in here. There's a grade line that comes down here that has rear access as well to this. And then this is the 12 unit here. Okay, so the phases, and I'm gonna kind of skip back. So we plan to do this in 3 phases, is our target. The third phase we may or may not get to. The first phase would include this unit here, and this apartment unit here. The second phase will add these 2 as we recruit people to move into those places. And then this area right here will be maintained as green space. What's not shown on this is there's going to be a pool in here, which may eat up one of those units, and then this will just remain green space until we decide to do phase 3, which we may never decide to do phase 3, but we've wanted to show it as the highest possible use and get comment on that before we start backing it off. Okay, so the designs are really targeting sort of a modern industrial type design aesthetic, pretty simple. Design frames, this is not really this is not our architectural design, this is just a visual. This is obviously not even a true duplex. You'd have to smush those together. But that's kind of the feel of it. This is sort of one of our rough sketch plans of the duplexes as they would be built. Our designs for the quadplexes are really just in very, very entry-level design phases, but we're targeting just a slightly different aesthetic, not just sort of your traditional duplex style, but more of a modern industrial design aesthetic, like maybe either of these look. Okay, we're really targeting, like I said, an efficient land development goal. The total pavement and building coverage is 1.23 acres. Which is a total impervious of 31.5, leaving 2.7 acres of green space on the property. This is some of the visuals of the green space. I don't know if any of you have ever taken a walk down there. You're more than welcome to, or you can fish it. Just please don't keep the fish. I need to put catch and release signs on it because I prefer they stay there. But beautiful green space. What the view here is basically all the development would be over here. This runs all the way basically down to College Avenue in that area. Same with this. Everything you see here would be behind any of the development that we would be targeting. The proposed development, as on your plans, includes sidewalk constructions both within the community itself as well as the full length down Puddintown Road. There's some discussions that Don and I need to have because if you've ever been down there, the end of that road connection is a complex situation, and so that's going to cause some challenges. But we do intend to run the sidewalk all the way down Puddintown there. The proposed development, as we've designed it and presented it, is in line with all known zoning ordinances, although that's one of the reasons we're having the sketch plan with you, in case we missed something. We're not seeking any township waivers at this time that we know of. Again, we would like feedback from you to tell us if maybe we missed something, but it's not part of our target plan. Okay. So, we're seeking questions and feedback. I'll back us up to sort of the sketch plan view in case anybody wants to ask questions specific to the design layout.
Great. As I understand, you presented this to the Planning Commission on Tuesday?
We did, yes.
Ed, you have any comments to share from your review, if you would?
Yeah.
If you would.
You're up there.
Thank you.
Some of the questions that were asked were about the runoff. As you can see on the sketch plan, there's 2 blue areas there. That's where the underground runoff will be captured. It will be filtered into the ground. It will not be running into the stream. There's also a catch basin back in there, which will take care of anything that may not be caught in those 2 underground runoff areas. We talked about the ingress and egress coming off of Puddintown, which is wide enough. We did have a discussion about the sidewalks. It may get tight down around the corner of Puddintown and College Avenue. We're going to leave that up to the developer and Don to work on that. We don't know if it should go on the other side, but there again, you have clear visibility coming in from College Avenue, but when you come over and go where Lenore Avenue is, there's a hump there, so the visibility may be a problem with cross-hatching and moving the sidewalk on the other side. So that's really up to Don and the developer. Other than that, the type of architectural that was shown to you as the units, the board really liked that because it was more woody kind of stuff. It would match with the open area that we have by the stream. There was a comment from Clearwater Conservancy concerning the stream. They are now submitting the runoff plan to DEP, which they figure will take about anywhere from 8 to 12 months to get their approval. So we did look at it. We had a lot of questions, but we were very supportive of it.
Excellent, thank you, Ed. Staff, anything to add from what you heard Tuesday and/or tonight?
Ed handled it pretty well. I think just a few things. I don't know if council has seen the Clearwater letter that came to the Planning Commission. They raised some concerns about the some endangered species, I guess. Yeah, and sedge plants there. And we just wanted to note to everyone that this project, because they're disturbing more than 1 acre, is going to have to go through an individual NPDES permit. So a Pennsylvania Natural Diversity Index report will also have to be filed along with that NPDES permit. So any sensitive areas or sensitive plants will be identified then. And also the sidewalk or the property doesn't actually go the entire way to College Avenue. It sort of ends there by the across from the LifeLink entrance. So I just wanted to kind of
Yeah, I was
clear that
actually
up
thinking
too.
about that after our meeting on Tuesday. I was walking back past that and I said, well, this is something Don's gonna have to figure out, but our property actually ends here. And where our property ends, we can pretty easily get the sidewalk to there. Now I think all of us are motivated to try to find a solution that can get us to College Avenue very easily and then get people, down to campus. So we'll be happy to work with him on that, but our property does end sort of prior to that fence line there.
Great.
So,
Adam, you had something on that?
Well, yeah, just to follow up. The other thing I think it's really important for council and the planning commission to know and understand is that these guys have worked really hard on a rather difficult site to accomplish what it is that they want to try to accomplish. I don't, how many times did you meet with staff?
At least
Half a dozen?
7,
Yeah,
6,
a
7.
few.
8,
Yeah.
so this has been in process for quite some time. And, I think the end results speak for themselves, at least as far as where we're at the moment. So I just wanted to be sure the council understood that this is not just kind of dropped out of the sky lately. This has kind of been an ongoing effort here over quite a few months.
And it's a sketch plan.
And it's a sketch plan, right?
Lindsay, anything else?
No, that's
Great.
all.
So we'll go around the horn. Let's start with the vice chair.
Oh,
Any
thanks.
comments or questions?
Thanks, Chair. Actually, just one. First of all, I just want to give my appreciation for you coming in and providing the sketch plan, coming in early, even though you're not even asking for waivers. So, thanks. And then I was going to ask if you'd talk to Clearwater, but they're clearly already involved. So my only final question is regarding traffic studies and the intersection of Puddintown and College Ave. I'm just wondering I just want to know if you've thought about that or if staff's talked to you about that at all.
We have. We've run sort of an ADT with our land development engineer that puts the target traffic. I'm new to traffic studies, but it
Welcome.
appears that you can use a number of different metrics upon which to start deriving the daily usage. And so the range was
370 to 512 was the daily trips,
Okay.
min and max.
Right, which both the land development engineer and in talks with township, we felt like those were both below, full traffic study levels, but that would, I mean, that's
Okay.
kind of our range, so I mean, that would be good.
Okay, so staff feels that that's still below a triggering threshold for that intersection?
Yeah, I'm gonna have to defer to Lindsay because obviously Dawn and she were primarily involved in that. I did not participate in any of those conversations.
Typically with land development plans, we require the applicant to do a traffic generation or trip generation. And so we would ask them to do that, and then we send that off to our traffic engineer, our consultant, and then they determine whether or not a full-blown traffic impact study would be required.
So that's still yet to be determined?
Correct.
Okay. I was just curious where that landed and how that fell, and wanted to make sure that you knew that could
Yeah, so
potentially be in the...
that's good clarification. So with any new development, there's a sort of initial trip generation to monitor current traffic conditions.
Mhm.
And would one of those have been done recently by either Millbrook or by
Aspen Heights.
Aspen Heights.
Yeah, the
Is it-
most recent would be Aspen Heights.
Is it feasible to ask the township to use the numbers that are on file from then, if it was within the last 12 months?
We can talk offline about that if
Okay.
you want to, and we can determine if that's
Yeah,
acceptable.
I think definitely have the conversation offline. I think a lot of it's going to fall into trans to make, or onto trans to make, our
Traffic
transportation engineer to make that particular determination. But absolutely, we can have the
Okay.
conversation.
Yeah, we can talk about it.
Great.
That's it for me, thanks.
Cool. Dustin, anything?
Yeah, just to piggyback off of Carla's comments, and first of all, thanks for coming in, gentlemen. Great presentation. I love the concept. So, when is phase one meant? When is if you could say, hey, we could get this going whenever we want to. What's like the time frame?
Yeah, so I mean, right now, we've got the large amount of work we've done up to this point is that we're anticipating a pretty hefty DEP NIPD's process. And we want to be pretty solid that we've, designed it to the approval of the council and that we don't have too many surprises after we've submitted that process. So we anticipate submitting for that in the next 2 to 4 weeks. We've been told that process can be anywhere from 8 to 12 months. And we're anticipating, okay, let's say it takes 12 months. So that puts us at, May 2023. Given that time window, all of our architectural drawings, our MEP, all of the interior designs of the buildings are gonna be complete. We've just got exterior interior layouts and exterior designs. So we would hope that by May 2023, we are underway.
Okay. Yeah, thanks. Just a general question. Just for clarification purposes, because I know you said as it currently states and an overlay of what you're going for, right? The 2 single-family homes are staying?
Yes,
Okay.
and we anticipate that, they're nice homes. They will definitely, it'll be different than what's built out here, but I see no reason why they need to not stay.
Okay.
I plan to either keep this and rent it or sell it to somebody that I want to live in.
Okay, and for clarification on the sidewalk, it's going to go from where the property ends there up to College Ave, right? Not any further down Puddintown Road.
No, we're gonna be left with this interesting system where Millbrook will be building to here and
Right.
I will be building to here.
That's why I asked, right?
Yes, my kids are running this all the time, and
Yeah.
it's one of the reasons why I am very happy that Millbrook is gonna build this here, because, this is a very dangerous stretch of road. You've got a
Right.
hill here, and, we're always cutting through these people's yards to get to that little mode path that Millbrook made so that we could get back there in the last round. So, I don't know what we do about that. Certainly you can't force these homeowners to deal with that, but maybe there's some way that we can do something together and say like, hey, we will help you fix this, because I would be motivated for it to be a continuous from College Avenue all the way over to the bike path, so,
It's great, thank you. That's all I have.
I was gonna say, as would we.
yeah.
Paul?
Yeah, thank you. First of all, thanks not only for the sketch plan, but it's a very creative approach to a difficult piece of property, right? I mean, I have walked that and fished it too. And by the way, I put them all back.
Good.
So just a couple of really quick questions. Clarification one, no zoning changes are going to be required for this to happen, correct?
That is correct.
Okay, all right. And then you mentioned that each of your families are going to be in the duplexes at the top. In other words, you're going to be occupying one of those duplexes and the other one is going to be rented, sold? I mean, is it a condo or is it a rental? What are you thinking?
This is one condo lot, so these
Okay.
will all be sort of condoized units. I'm sorry, I should begin this. These are all going to be condoized units. Under our present anticipation, our family will occupy this entire unit. I have 5 kids, we host tons of people all the time, and we will have guest rooms and some large places to have gatherings and stuff on this side. So we will occupy both units, and I think, Daniel, that's your intention with yours as well.
That is, yeah.
Okay, so they're essentially 2 single-family homes.
That is correct. We're designing them as this because that size of a single-family home in this size community for the longer term just doesn't seem to make sense to us. When we want it to move out at some point down the road, it's much more likely that a person would want half of this as a duplex, as the most of the others will be in there as that. So we're targeting the needs that we have for our family size and for what we need to do now, but down the road, we wouldn't have a big giant house here in a community that's accommodating much lower income, stratus.
Right, so are there internal connections between the 2 units?
Yes,
Okay,
yeah.
all right, that was what I was curious about. And then the other units, are you foreseeing rentals or sales? I mean, how are you?
Yeah, good
thinking?
question. So, point of clarification on this one, as far as your question, as far as are there internal, ways, passageways to and from?
Are they separate dwellings or is it a single dwelling?
They'll
That
be
was what I was
designed to
getting
be as close to a separate dwelling as possible, so that in the future, when we convert them or if we sell one off, we have that flexibility. When our kids leave the house and we don't need that much room, we could sell that off. So our intent is to build it as close, but we will probably have walls that we've blown out so that we can move, in and out and make it more of one place. I don't suppose that is a problem, or I didn't know the nature of the question.
No, it's just, it's not exactly a duplex then. That
Yeah.
was just the nature of my question. Is
Sure.
it built as a duplex or is it built to become a duplex?
Yeah, it's kind of a weird middle ground. It's
Yeah.
built to externally be a duplex and internally be a single-family home.
It's a duplex being used as a single-family home.
No, I got that.
That's what
I
I'm
wasn't
thinking.
clear from what you had
Yeah,
said earlier.
The
so
main
that's what I was
divider
asking.
wall will be fire separation, and
Yeah, for sure.
you'll have a couple
Yes.
and
Yeah,
pathways
we're gonna
through
build it
that
to
you can close
code
back
as
up.
2 totally separate duplexes, so that when the time comes, if we want to separate it off, we will. But for the time being, it will be used as a single-family home.
And then just the rest of the property, are
Yeah,
you thinking
so-
about selling or
Yeah, so-
renting or?
So these units here will be predominantly rentals. I think probably all rentals is our target. These units here, we are up in the air. So maybe a little bit of just backstory on sort of what we're targeting here, which is definitely a unique setup. But both Daniel and myself are heavily involved in various networks that do young adult mentoring, and we're coaching people all the time. Both of us have owned businesses and coach young adults in entrepreneurship and missions work and other things. And a lot of that work would be more conducive if the people we were coaching lived in our community and could share life with us and could come over to our house for dinner and just be around us. And so we target a number of them would stay in these places. It will also be open to people who are not them, because there's enough room for a lot of people in there. So these will be rentals. These areas we're targeting specifically, we have, actually next week we have meetings with probably a dozen couples that have shared interest in doing life with us and living in our community. And so we're talking with them about some ideas that they would like to see in the community before we go to final, DEP submittal. And so we anticipate selling these to them, but we would also be open to building them and renting them if their financials, set up that way, or building them and doing a rent to own, or so there's some flexibility there, but predominantly these are looking to be sold. these are looking as rentals.
Got it, okay. And then I do like the underground switching gears, the underground stormwater, retention ponds in order to dissipate that. Real quick question, I've walked that, everything that you're planning to build is up on that bench,
Yes,
right? On that
correct.
shelf, because
Yep.
you showed that pretty steep incline down to the,
Yeah, and I'll throw the grade lines on it.
yeah,
So-
that's helpful, that's what I was looking at.
Yeah, so everything is that bench, as you say. Now, that bench traditionally runs right here. So if the bench is really back in here, and then it grades real lighter, this grading is steep because we have to bring this down to a flat, and then we gotta get back down to grade here. That's why you see, but each one of these grade lines are 1 foot. So, you know, when you're looking at this, that's 8 feet, you know, it's not like 30.
So you're gonna be filling in to the left there in order to bring the grade up, and then, I miss,
Yeah, so actually, I believe that the grade is gonna drop here to flatten off, because this has a kind of gentle slope the whole way down. So we're gonna drop grade fast here, get to level, and then drop grade fast off the back.
okay. Yeah, that was the nature of my question, especially with the impervious cover, you know, making sure that works with the Thompson Run right there.
Yeah, I mean, and that's our main concern, that's obviously DEP's main concern, I'm sure that's Clearwater's main concern. It's a lot of work with the land development has gone into doing that and assessing that. This line right here is actually the setback that we can't cross in any capacity whatsoever. And we can't even grade on it. And so that's significantly off the stream and maintains that whole area down there.
Yeah, that's the important part, you know, making sure, because it is continuous, right? I mean,
Yeah.
Walnut Springs and Thompson Run, I mean, they go right down and connect to Millbrook Marsh and on through
Correct, yes.
to Spring Creek, so that was one of my concerns. And then the only other thing, and you addressed it earlier, is there is a hill there, and the visibility is not great around that curve. So just making sure that we've got that taken care of.
Yeah, we ran some rough line of sight distances, and I can't remember the exacts, but they fit within the line of sight requirements. Putting this down here is far better than, say, this driveway here that really has a tough spot. Actually, these guys would, I think, like to tie into this, so that they could exit up here. But the work the township did a couple years back to lower the road there made a big difference, certainly, and helped out, I think, this project substantially, because that road was nearly invisible. You know, now with that road being cut down, the visibility from here to here is actually pretty decent.
That was all I had, but thank
Great.
you very much again for bringing this to us and for all the work with staff as well.
Yeah, thanks, Paul.
Absolutely. Did you?
I just had one more, but I can
Go ahead.
go after
No, go
you.
ahead.
Okay, I just did want to bring up the potential connection to that driveway. Is that not allowed, or is there something keeping them from, is that because that's a private drive that they can't connect to that?
We do have regulations on how many properties can be subdivided off of a private drive, but
Yeah.
as for them to be able to connect there, don't think I can answer that.
Not
That
off
would
the
be a
top of
good-
your
Yeah,
head,
that'd be
yeah.
a better question for Dawn.
Even,
so.
yeah.
The thing that we ran into on this, you know, and certainly this is not part of this project, although we would love to help our neighbors if they can have a safer way putting down the road.
Right, when you were talking about that corner, I did think maybe they could have an
So when
option.
we've walked this and had some conversations with both of, this is Dr. Robert Harbaugh's land here, it's about 3 acres, and then there's another property back here. And in talks with them, you know, they would like to tie in here, because especially on game days when cars are parked up and down here, they say they just close their eyes and pull out, which is not ideal. The challenge is, and you know, I would love for some guidance just to maybe pass back to them, but under current ordinance, there can be no more than 2 lots on a private driveway. This will be zoned as 1 lot, this is 1 lot, and this is 1 lot, and this is a driveway. So if by connecting this driveway now accesses 3 lots, then that, under current ordinance, is not allowed.
It's actually is 3. I was going to speak.
It is 3.
I recall we had some conversations
Okay.
at one of our meetings, And I think Dawn was supportive of that. We could probably come up with something
Okay.
if you guys executed the proper.
If it is
agreements.
3, then I misread the regulations, and then it should be doable as is.
Yes, that should be able to be.
3 lots off of project.
Yes, and
Okay.
that, I recall Dawn's conversation too, for the safety enhancement, even if it weren't allowed, if that would make
That's what I
it
was
4
actually gonna
lots,
say.
there's a very good likelihood we would say, no, for the safety purposes, we're throwing that 3 out the window.
And what's the process for that? Do they come to a council meeting? Do they just go to you and Dawn?
Well, if,
Be incorporated.
Yeah, it starts with staff and then and it'll eventually
Yeah, I
end up
think we could
planning
talk-
commission in here.
we could discuss this when Dawn's available.
Okay.
But that could be part of your land development plan.
Yeah, I mean,
if
it's
your-
much
if
easier
your
to do it
neighbor
while we
wants-
have everything there.
Yeah, if your neighbor wants to participate in it and is interested in that connection.
Yeah, okay, well, one of our meetings over the next several weeks will be with them to kind of do another round of discussions, and at that time, I'll present that option. I hadn't been doing it because I hadn't wanted to, jeopardize the entire project by adding this other thing that may or may not get approved, because we're not seeking any other waivers, so, but if everybody seems like, okay, that's probably a viable option, it would be certainly a much safer option for them.
So then the idea is then that you would eliminate the end of that existing driveway and they would come in.
It would
off
just
of-
basically be a little road, I mean, it's just a little section of
I don't think they'd
pavement.
eliminate it.
They could have the
Yeah,
option.
they'd
would be
probably
options.
keep it,
Yeah.
and just,
That is-
use it if, I guess, they really wanted to, but, this would be sort of the way that they could more safely.
And
Yeah,
it'd
there
be a
would
lot
be
safer.
easement agreements that you would have to go through.
Right.
And I would assume if that connection were made, we would require private driveway, no
Yeah.
entry signs to discourage people
Right,
from
you
your
don't want to
community
encourage that.
from putting more
Through-
traffic.
Yes,
Exactly, right,
no
that would
through
be the
traffic,
opposite,
etc.
so, yeah, so we
Well,
would-
DEP's gonna give you time to work on that.
Yeah, plenty of it, unfortunately.
Anything else, Carl?
No, thank you, sorry,
Cool,
that was the
great.
last tip.
No, absolutely. Really appreciate the creativity and inclusivity that you're building into this project. And as my peers have identified, it's a challenging space, but that also creates a challenge, a unique, special design, which is great. Couple questions for staff, just confirmation kind of things. Puddintown is a PennDOT
Township.
township road. Okay,
Turn it over.
very
We
good.
did the turn back, it
Right, right.
had been, but about 5
Right.
years ago.
So that affords us a little bit, the point I wanted to make with that is that affords us a little bit more opportunity. We're a little more amenable than our friends at PennDOT sometimes. The other thing, just confirming that the land development plan can't move forward until DEP's responses, or could it move simultaneous?
NPDES permits are always a condition of
Sure.
approval. But also, they'll have to do sewage planning as well.
Yep.
And that would be another condition of approval. So yes,
Right.
it can move forward, they can do those
Right.
simultaneously.
Just wanted to put that.
Yeah, it's a
out there.
good clarification, because our plan, and speaking, Adam, to your timeline, Dustin, our plan is to begin that sort of approval process about 6 months from now, so that approvals are kind of hitting at the same time, obviously contingent on the DEP, approval as well, but that we wouldn't get to the DEP and then start the, 3 to 6 months of planning, approval process. We wanna do those in parallel.
Who knows, they might surprise you and be
Yeah, maybe.
back soon. Just for those viewing that may not be able to see that, just confirming that the red line, that's the riparian buffer
That's correct.
line?
Yeah.
Just
Correct,
For
yeah,
those
they're-
that probably can't see that on CNET or anything like that.
Yeah.
It's even tough in our packet.
And this is a question that maybe I should not bring such a question, but I need to bring such a question.
Sure.
This is a 100-foot buffer, okay? The present guideline from DEP, just straight on the books, is a 150-foot buffer. Now, our land development engineer convinces me that through tree planting and various trade-offs, he's very confident of getting that to a 100-foot buffer, which is what is shown there. My question would be, does council have any, if DEP approves the plan, is council going to have a second opinion to DEP's?
Go ahead, Adam.
Yeah, we do not have, and we did not adopt a separate
Right.
buffer requirement
For these zoning districts.
for our zoning districts. That was something that was under consideration a number of years ago.
We did for Gateway Commercial,
We
correct?
did for Gateway Commercial.
I believe we did.
But nothing in.
But not for residential.
That's what I'm
residents.
saying.
Yes.
sorry,
Yes.
Okay, yes, yeah.
Yes.
But, so the answer to the question is, council doesn't, we have no ordinance that would require anything additional,
Okay,
other than what DEP ends up determining is the appropriate line.
right, okay, because we know we have a lot of hurdles with them even to get to here. And, but I wanted to make sure that if we cross those hurdles with them, that, that would be acceptable also to council, so.
Great. That's all I had. Again, thank you so much. Hopefully you found the process rewarding enough for your next project.
Sure.
To do it again.
Yeah, I mean, quite honestly, it shocks me that this isn't the standard way that people do this. It seems
Isn't
like
it
would
better?
Make it much better for everyone.
Yes.
So, for sure, we plan to do other developments in the future, so I mean, I don't understand why I would do it any other way. And thank you so much to Lindsay and Mark and Dawn, who met with us multiple times and fielded really dumb questions to get us to this place. So,
Wonderful. Thank you for sharing it with us. Moving forward, special presentations, SB1, Clearwater Conservancy.
Good evening. How's it going? Thank you very much. I'm gonna be pretty brief today, but it's actually kind of nice to continue in building off of presentation you just held and heard about, which was really connectivity of important lands and protection of the Spring Creek up and down Spring Creek and all of its tributaries. I actually brought a couple of printout versions of this map too, if helpful, because I know it's often hard to see it. It is, yeah. And then here's also just a bird's eye view. Yep. There, thank you. And I can email them over to you if you need them as part of.
They have it, I believe.
Perfect.
Get it in your packet,
Great.
SP1.
Yes.
Okay.
So College Township, in addition to State College Borough and Penn State and Center Region Parks and Rec and Millbrook Marsh and Clearwater, we've all had a long legacy of working hand in hand and doing a pretty remarkable job, I think, of helping protect the Spring Creek. Through, years of good leadership and thoughtful land conservation, we've had the chance to really create these sort of long linear corridors of protection along the Spring Creek and all of its tributaries. Whether you're looking at the connection from Lederer Park to Thompson Woods, to Walnut Springs, to Millbrook Marsh, Slab Cabin Park, Spring Creek Park. In addition to all of the restoration work that you've been doing along Spring Creek in places like the sheep farm through Penn State's property, and other places like the Center Hills Golf Course. Our community has really had the benefit of having leadership at the township level to protect the Spring Creek. And it's not many communities where you have nearby nature or access to a world-renowned trout fishery so close to a growing town, a town that's growing up and out and quickly becoming a city. The protection of these stream corridors is an essential ingredient as we grow. So Clearwater often keeps our eye out for opportunities to expand and build on those opportunities. And so I'm excited to share with you just sort of the very beginning phases of something we're working on. I do plan on coming probably a handful more times over the summer as this project really develops. But we have entered into an agreement of sale on a nearly 9-acre parcel along Spring Creek in the Hauserville area. It's known as the Umberger Rockenbeck property. It's located at 1601 Hauserville Road, and it's outlined in red on this map. You can see from the bird's eye perspective map that we provided, just sort of how all of these pieces are connected along Spring Creek. Our vision for this property is really to permanently conserve the streamside acres and begin to utilize the property as a showcase for conservation. It currently has a significant amount of restoration on it. U.S. Fish and Wildlife and Trout Unlimited and Clearwater did a lot of in-stream work to stabilize the stream banks and build a forested buffer along that section of property. We've worked with a lot of landowners upstream and downstream as well to protect Spring Creek there. So we'd love to conserve this property and really have it become a showcase where landowners can come and learn conservation and restoration techniques. So we'd like to possibly locate some staff there and expand on some of that great work, increase the size of the riparian buffer, establish pollinator meadows, native gardens around the house and the barn, maybe do some level of agroforestry on the hillside, upside, behind the barn. All at the same time while working with College Township to ensure that there's public access to the stream as well. And the beautiful part is this is right across the street, or right across the stream, from the large section outlined in green on this map that is already College Township land. And so there'd be a beautiful section of Spring Creek that's connected as open space and accessible for fishing, for play, for hiking, for spending time. On any given day after school, on a beautiful day, there are tens of kids out there playing and hanging out on that stream. There's people walking their dogs. Being able to make both sides of the stream accessible to the public is an important goal for us. So we're just in the final throes. We're planning on actually hiring an architecture and engineering firm here in the early part of May. We're going to begin planning for what's actually possible on this property. We're going to be completing a site assessment and a concept plan. We'll be bringing this back to you to seek your input for both ideas and potential partnership. And we're just really looking forward to having you help shape what the opportunity looks like here, since it's one, connected to so much already, and two, immediately across the road or the stream from parcels that you have already conserved. Having your guidance and input in what we do here means a lot to us. So again, this is just the very beginning of, I think, a pretty unique opportunity to expand open space for the folks who live around here. That's it.
Here. Questions for Deb? Dustin, anything?
Yeah, what was your full name again?
Deborah Nardone. I'm the executive director at Clearwater Conservancy.
Thank you, nice to meet you. I don't have any questions.
Excellent. Paul?
No, we've actually talked about this property before. It's exciting that it's continuing to move forward. In your vision, you're thinking about repurposing the house and the barn sort of as is, doing internal modifications to make it like an office and sort of a event space, I guess?
Yeah, so I guess we're kind of open with really no preconceived notion of what's possible there. We know that we work hand in hand with a lot of landowners who want to learn the basics of what they can do on their own property. So whether you're own a 1/4 acre in the borough and you want to put native gardens around your home, or if you own 400 acres out in Ferguson Township and want to learn a little bit more about restoring your stream and doing agroforestry as additional income. These are the kinds of practices that we work with landowners on a daily basis. And having sort of a demonstration area where we could make small pilot areas of this and invite landowners in to learn and grow and work on these kinds of things together is really the vision. The barn is a late 1800s built bank barn. It's not in great shape. We have a barn architect and historian who has come out and given us some input as to the viability of restoration of that barn. And when we hire the architecture and engineering firm in May, they'll give us a much better idea of what is the kind of footprint that we might need to do this kind of landowner education and outreach, in addition to locating some staff on site as well, and what does that footprint look like? So I don't know the answer yet. I mean, that's part of the reason why we're going through the site assessment and needs assessment, is to, you know, probably look at different levels of opportunity. So something that's just very basic to something that, you know, could be a showcase for conservation. We don't have the answers to those yet, but I'm looking forward to the process so that we can start getting input from people about what we could possibly do there.
No, that's exciting, and that's why I asked, I wasn't sure. And then the property right behind, that's Penn State property as well. That field, that plowed field right now is also Penn State property, correct?
Yeah.
So they might even be interested in helping partner, because, I mean, there's, you know, what you're talking about touches on a lot of what the College of Ag does, and
Absolutely.
the Water Institute and others.
What they've done, if you scroll down, that whole section of blue property is Penn State property, known as the Sheep Farm. Clearwater, U.S. Fish and Wildlife, Trout Unlimited, we worked hand in hand with the university to fence and buffer Spring Creek all through that property. Penn State's already doing a phenomenal job in managing it to protect Spring Creek. And so, you know, again, this long linear corridor of, you know, Walnut Springs, Letter, Millbrook, Spring Creek Park, Penn State, and then the Rockenbeck property. You know, in an ideal situation, an angler might be able to hop in at Spring Creek Park and fish the entire section all the way up through to the Rockenbeck property, and hopefully someday even further. So, you know, again, having nature and having access to a world-renowned trout stream so close to town isn't something that many towns get to boast about. And I think the opportunity to continue allowing for access through all of the properties that you've conserved is an important amenity for the community.
There is no easy way to get there unless you park off Puddintown Road and you hike back through along the creek. So this would be an opportunity to access it at the other end.
Correct.
Which is nice too, and would connect to College Township's property. So I just wanted to make note of that. This is a really important piece of land to connect those two as well.
And you know, the opportunities are endless when it also comes to just connection for pedestrian access. You know, Penn State is going through their master transportation plan. I know the College Township is really thinking about connectivity of all of these public spaces as well. And so, you know, having this property be sort of a keystone in some of that transportation, bikeway, hiking, planning would be something that we would consider. The old, it used to be called the Airport Connector Road, which goes under I-99 and connects onto the backside of Innovation Park. That comes into the back of the property. So it goes through the Penn State property, and I believe at one point there was plans many years ago to possibly connect to the airport. That's no longer part of the transportation plan or the road plans for this property, but there are ways to connect to Penn State property, potentially under I-99 as well.
Thank you so much. Looking forward to the next phase.
Great.
Thank you very much.
Carla?
Yeah, this has been a little bit in the works, and it's exciting to see it come to almost fruition. Good job. My immediate gut reaction as to what to do with it, or one thing you can think about, is the proximity to the school, and using it as offering it at least as a very easy space for them to do some outside education. I know that they use the marsh, but a farm setting would be really cool too.
Absolutely, and you know, we've talked to the folks at Millbrook Marsh. You know, the kind of outreach and education that they do is different from the kind of landowner engagement that we would do, but we know that there's definitely some synergy between Millbrook Marsh and the Rockenbeck property, that either connection or doing rigorous outreach and education together would be great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Good. Good?
Yeah.
Great. I will also share, Mr. Bernier wasn't able to be with us this evening, but he did want to share that he's excited about the potential acquisition of the property and that Clearwater continues to do great work. Absolutely. The couple things that I heard from here, I really like the public access thing, because we've had some recent stuff that we've done some good things with conservation, but we haven't been able to share it with our residents as much as we'd like. So the public access, that's exciting to me. Careful of those old barns. We have one at Millbrook Marsh that, we can tell you a lot about.
We got one, we're good.
What's it?
That's why we're bringing in the experts, because
Yeah.
we're gonna let them tell
Smart.
us what's possible.
And to your point about, having the stream in our backyard and everything, not only do we have it, but to keep it as healthy and vibrant as we've been able to do is just, that's a testament to Clearwater's work, the region, the citizens, and everything, that we've made this a priority, and everything. Despite some chemical companies' best efforts, although that might have been ultimately a blessing in disguise to keep people out of it, keep it under control a little bit and everything.
During a high development time, yeah.
Yeah, during a high development time, yeah. So, but yeah, it's a wonderful thing, and we really appreciate you you never sitting on your laurels. You're continuing to drive through. Adam, I see.
Just one quick question, Deb. And I know it's early days, but if this plays out, would you anticipate that all Clearwater staff would end up here?
I don't know the answer to that. We, it's part of the reason why we would be doing the needs assessment. We're a growing staff of 10 right now, and the need for our work and the way that we've grown over the last handful of years, I could expect us to grow, to 15 or so in the next good handful of years. And so I don't know whether the site could meet the needs of a growing staff. That's part of the reason why the needs assessment is essential as part of this. Again, given the shape of the barn, what you could do with the white farmhouse, can that really fit a size of that kind of staff? I don't know the answer to that either. Those are the kinds of things that we would be bringing back to the council and beginning to lay out with the architecture and engineering firms.
Thank you.
Paul, you got a follow-up?
Just a final comment, actually. It'd be remiss to not mention that Saturday is the 26th annual Watershed Cleanup Day. So anybody who's watching or is interested in helping out can reach out to Clearwater to go out and help keep the stream in really good shape. I'm sure you wouldn't mind getting some last minute volunteers.
We actually had to close volunteer signups for the moment. We have a couple of backup sites. So should your crew want to come out and volunteer, we do have space. We have 52 sites and over 400 volunteers coming out on Saturday.
Well, we need it.
Across the county, you're absolutely right. So Saturday is Watershed Cleanup Day. Sunday is Earth Day Birthday at Millbrook Marsh. And so there's lots of activities this weekend to go out to, and it looks like the weather's gonna maybe feel like spring.
Well, congratulations and thank you for
Thanks.
pulling together an event at 52 sites and 400 people. That is, again, impressive, so thank you.
Thank you.
So Deb, the one, I really appreciated your conservation map. I think it shows College Township's commitment to these great deeds and everything. Something on a different subject, but something that you do have a hand in is Thompson Woods Preserve and everything. And something I think that we would all look forward to and support potentially is if we could create a cleanup or a day in the woods kind of event for that. And we'd appreciate your help if we could do something like that.
Absolutely. So cleaning up of both illegal garbage, but also I know that there's a larger master site plan there as well for eradicating invasives. And I think you'd be able to get your neighborhoods out to really dig
Exactly.
into doing
Yeah.
both of those.
But, Clearwater's got a lot of clout in these elements, so we'd like to work with you to see if we can get
Thank you.
something specific to Thompson.
One of the fun things we also have going this year, Centered Outdoors, which is a program where we take people out to experience local destinations every Sunday and Wednesday throughout the summer. We're kicking off May 8th, exploring Spring Creek Canyon and wildflowers, and we'll continue to go throughout the end of September. We are taking a week to explore Letterer Park this year as part of Centered Outdoors.
Oh, that's nice.
Part of what we've heard from many of the participants in the Centered Outdoors community is one, they're looking for more and more opportunities that are close to town, something that they can ride public transportation or walk to. Two, we're hearing that to have equitable access, you have to have it close to town where people ultimately feel safe. And so that some of the more rural areas may not feel safe to everyone who wants to spend time in the outdoors. So we've really done a lot to highlight local destinations this year in Centered Outdoors, Letterer Park being one of the destinations, along with a good handful of other parks that are very close to larger densities of population. So Clearwater's Passport will be out here in the middle of May, and we'll drop a bunch off at the office. But shout out to not only spending time in Thompson Woods, but featuring Letterer Park this year too.
Outdoors in general. That's great. Thank you, Deb.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Continuing on, reports, manager's update.
Yes, happy to report that the construction for Pike Street is now expected to be May 2nd. They're still working through a number of submittals and getting approvals for those. So it does appear that we will be started, it's Monday, May 2nd, which is good news. So heads up for future announcements in the very near future on that. I'm also pleased to report that I believe, I know that Lindsay and Mike and I are meeting tomorrow to have a conversation with respect to a draft request for qualifications for a consultant relative to the form-based discussion that we held with the Planning Commission in a joint PC and council meeting not too long ago. So we're expecting sometime yet by the end of May to be back in front of you with various comments and inputs, and hopefully be in a position to get authorization from council to put that out onto the street. Moving on through the document, we are still waiting for the Trans Associate proposal with respect to the LTAC, Local Traffic Advisory Committee work in the Center Hills Village neighborhood area. So once we have that, it'll be coming to council. My hope is that we'll be able to get that in front of you at our next meeting, first meeting in May.
Did we get traffic counters out on that?
And the traffic counts have already been out. I don't know if they're still up,
Okay,
but they
that's
were out.
okay.
Yes, definitely.
I don't think they're up any longer, but they were.
I think they're gone now,
Yeah.
yeah, that you mentioned.
Great.
Moving on, speaking, I've just left, but speaking of Thompson Woods Preserve, I do want to give kudos to Assistant Township Manager Mike Bloom for knuckling down and providing a great deal of assistance in drafting an intergovernmental cooperation agreement. That has been forwarded to the College Township Solicitor for review and comment. Once we have comments back and any redrafting that may be needed as recommended by the solicitor, that set of documents will come to council for review. If council finds them acceptable, then I think it will be a matter of getting that same information over to the borough for their review. So we are making progress there, albeit slow. And that completes my report for this evening, but I'd be happy to answer any questions that you may have.
Questions for the manager? Paul? Any?
No, none.
Carla? Dustin?
No.
Eric did not have any either, other than happy to see a planned construction start date for the streetscape, so that's exciting.
Yeah, that is exciting.
Continuing on, we have our COG Regional County and Liaison reports. Paul, do you have anything for us?
Just that the College Township IDA met yesterday. And I'm pleased to say that it was overall a very organized and productive meeting, thanks in no small part to the manager and to Jen for keeping things on track. There were several items, including extensive reports from all 4 of the subcommittees. Accomplished a lot in terms of loan modifications and extensions, interest deferral, presentation of the budget, all accomplished in 90 minutes. And as they continue to work through process, procedural issues, and organizational issues. So, you know, definitely seemed to be a really good meeting. It was quite well done. I just wanted to underscore we should be keeping track of how much time and effort is going into this, but I'm encouraged over a short period of time that things appear to be quite good on the IDA side.
Excellent.
That's all I have.
Excellent. Carla? Any?
Yeah. I met with the Climate Action Sustainability Committee on April 11th. I did send a meeting report, did not make it into the packet, but it did make it into your emails. At least that I couldn't find.
Sorry about that.
That's okay. I noticed it wasn't in there yesterday, and then I thought, maybe I never sent it. Maybe I never had a meeting.
It was right after our last meeting.
Maybe I imagined it, which is why I was also a little flustered like moments ago when I was like, and there was something about I know there was a meeting. Anyway, don't worry about it. I forgot about it, so. Yeah, anyway, go through it. Actually, why don't we just bring it up now? Sylvia Neely did come and talk to us about a carbon dividend resolution. And so this is something, the Energy Innovation and Carbon Dividend Act is something before the United States Congress. And so a couple of the municipalities in the Center region have passed resolutions in support of it. Basically, and Sylvia would just like to come to speak to us about it and see if we too would like to pass a resolution. So I was wondering if we could put that on a future agenda.
Sure. As long as we have consensus to see thumbs, nods. Okay, we'll get it on a future agenda.
All right, great.
You have it in your notes, Adam?
Look, there it is.
I'm sorry.
There's her report. For you all to see.
Oh, thanks.
Now it's
It exists.
officially a part of the meeting.
Wow.
Look at that. Look at all that typing I did.
I think I read this.
Yeah, so ICLEI's Action Fund, this was just sort of a follow-up. We're moving along on a potential award to do some neat things. Not sure all the ins and outs of it, but it looks positive at this stage. And then finally, Bud brought up the State College Area Connector Project, drawing connections between trucks coming through the area and the different route options and the different potential greenhouse gas emissions that would entail. Unfortunately, I think that Harris Township is thinking of it very linearly, as though the longer route equals more emissions, but hills are involved and speeds, and there's a lot more involved than miles. But they have now, I think, moved forward and requested, they've taken it into their own hands and are no longer going to try to go through CAS committee to seek that out. So they've requested that PennDOT include greenhouse gas emissions in their analytics, which is actually really great.
Yes.
So I was glad to see that come out of that.
The concept is good. I don't know if the result in that specific project will.
For sure. But if that's what we got out of it,
yeah.
then that's
Yeah.
okay.
Well, hopefully it becomes standard. in some
Yeah,
of the
it
things that
surprised
they
me
do, right?
when learning of that it wasn't a standard thing.
Right?
Right.
Yeah. So.
So now, Harris did send a letter to PennDOT on it from their township. They did request anybody else who might be interested to send one individually. It was a short fuse deadline. I think it was last Saturday. So, but yeah, no, I think that, again, the concept of part of the planning criteria being greenhouse gases is a good one, but,
But it's timely and pertinent too, because didn't the air quality grade just come out, and Pennsylvania is very low? I think only one place in Pennsylvania improved, and that was during the pandemic.
Oh, I didn't see it.
despite the pandemic, it didn't improve. Anything else, Carl?
No, I guess I just want to follow up and say that the Climate Action and Sustainability Committee is a new one, and I've enjoyed being on it. And if there are any questions about what our purpose is and what we're doing, then people can come talk to me, or Pam Adams or Betsy Whitman. I just wouldn't. That's all, I guess. I just worry a little bit that people are kind of vague on what we do, and so when we come across with a suggestion to the greater audience, that sometimes it's met with some suspicion, as if some greenwashing going on, but that's not at all what's happening there. So anyway, just putting that out into the world, that if anybody has any questions about what our mission is and what our action items are, then they're welcome to reach out.
Right. And a lot of them will be coming through to the general forum, and we'll have.
Oh, it all, yeah,
we'll have
recommendations, that's
additional-
exactly it. The
yeah, we'll have
recommendations to the
additional
general forum.
opportunities to,
Right.
discuss things, because there are a lot of different perspectives on all of that, but.
And we are trying to keep it, we're trying to keep politics out of it completely. So that's not our goal.
Best plan.
Best plan, I know.
Great. Dustin, anything?
No meetings attended, so nothing to report.
Okay, excellent. I will share, Mr. Bernier shared CCMPO met, says last night, I don't know if that was the night before, was that Tuesday or Wednesday? Regardless. They approved a draft of the revised current tip. Revisions were necessary because we received about 20 million more in formula funding through the recent BIL legislation. Allowed us to add more projects from the queue into this year's tip. Received an update from PennDOT on the State College Area Connector project, in particular input received at the recent 2 public open house. Update from staff on 2 items, the COG CAAP plan and how it relates to the MPO, the current long-range transportation plan. Eric continues to work with staff and a couple of the Center County members on the MPO Center County BIL subcommittee. We are currently working through an initial review of potential funding opportunities through the new legislation and an overview of potential options regarding the CCMPO's capacity to pursue or assist in the pursuit of those opportunities. Next meeting is scheduled for the first week of May. Please do not ask me any questions. This is Mr. Bernier's world. Please reach out to him directly.
Thank you.
Finance, that's left with me. Finance Committee met April 14th. Various items, a couple of them you'll remember from the priority discussion we had on Finance Committee priorities. One of the ones at the top was fund balance policy, which is amazing to me. But the first iteration of how we're gonna eat that animal was recommended that the regional finance directors work with the COG finance director and initiate an initial draft, and then we'll review that. We've got an update on how the CIP, the new CIP process is working. A little behind, but it is moving forward, and it is definitely more informed than it has ever been. So hopefully that helps, it corresponds to good numbers. We received an update on the Tracer project and credit cards. Paul, you might have seen a little bit, had this under public safety.
We didn't meet
Okay.
this month. We
So,
will have it on
you
the
know,
next
the
meeting.
general gist was, we support credit cards, but it will be a convenience fee type basis. They are trying to get consistency across the region and how these things are approached and everything. So I know College, for some of their stuff, charges a convenience fee to do those kind of things. The one offset to that is probably the parks, because they were able to balance not needing as much staff if people could go in and use their credit card and apply for programs and things like that. So that's ongoing, but the initial push on the code stuff would be that there would be a convenience fee with that. But again, they're trying to get it it's fairly consistent across the region. Yeah.
So are they pushing parks to institute a
No.
convenience? Okay.
No. No. But where all things equal, you know, again, Parks is offsetting it. We don't have to have as much staff if they're able, if
Right, I
people-
just wanted to make sure we weren't
No, we're not for, no.
starting it for the sake of,
Nope. No,
Okay.
that is not my understanding.
okay.
Yeah, yeah. You will see on Monday, a interfund interagency loan between Fire Capital and the Nature Center. That's to fund an engineering work in connection with the Phase 2 feasibility study for the boardwalk replacement. So that's obviously important stuff. We talked about that in the budget process, and that was the mechanism that we chose. It'll be a 5-year note. It'll be in the form of a memorandum of understanding between the two. And we actually have a policy, a loan, interfund, interagency loan policy that dictates how interest rate or the rate of return for that is to be applied. So it'll be following that. We had a little bit of an extended discussion on the COG building ownership. For those that have bared with me for the past, well, we're on 4 years, I think we're moving towards. You know, we've made the case and everything, but apparently a couple of folks weren't paying attention along the path, and so we just reiterated that. And staff is developing a lease amendment, it appears, that will designate that at the end of the lease in 2028, that there will be no question that the COG building belongs to COG. Monthly reports to regular business and everything. Pending any questions on finance. Exec met this past Tuesday. I'm not gonna get, the general forum agenda came out today. Pretty much everything that we discussed is in that. The one thing that we did have an extended conversation about was Mr. Lord from Harris asked for an agenda item to discuss assessing our meeting experiences during the last 2 years. Members are asked to consider and provide feedback on where we were, where we are now, and where we are going. Members are also asked to provide feedback on the COG meeting process and what has gone well and what, if anything, can be improved on. So that discussion melded down to a fear that we're going to no longer do Zoom and allow anything of that, utilize that tool. Well, the last guidance from the general forum is that we will have hybrid meetings, we will have that Zoom and everything like that. But they did share, some various reasons why there's benefits to being in person. And that given all things equal, we should be striving for that as a more effective meeting method and everything like that. So what was asked was that each of the members start having discussions with their boards about how they feel, what's gone right, what's gone wrong, what can we do better, all that kind of stuff. And I just share that tonight because we're headed into a general forum meeting on Monday. So have that in the back of your mind. And at our next meeting, I will be soliciting feedback so that then I can provide that at the next exec committee meeting. Sure.
Specific to the general forum meetings, not our own meetings.
What's that?
The feedback that.
Yes,
we're
yes, just
providing.
COG, yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
COG meetings. Would it also include the committee meetings
Yes, it
as
would,
well?
absolutely, yeah. And that was one of the, one of the things that I stressed is, and it's not only the members, it's what is your constituents' expectations of you? Are they expecting you to be, to be at these meetings and everything like that? And that's who we work for, so that has a value too. The other thing that I shared is a lot is asked of elected officials. A lot more is asked of center region elected officials because of our COG and how we do it. And so the convenience element matters. Now, one thing I'll share here, I differentiated a little bit between committee meetings and general forum meetings. Committee meetings, the convenience of them and a lot of them occur during the day, so if you can cut the travel time associated to participate in those, I mean, that's a good thing, and everything. General forum, it's in the evening. There is huge benefit to, I believe, the meetings are more effective in person, the camaraderie before and the camaraderie after, the body language, all that good kind of stuff and everything. The one other thing that I did put out, is I do believe Zoom is a valuable tool to us for many reasons, but I also think that there needs to be some express expectations of this, of utilizing that tool. When you're attending remote via Zoom, we should have your full attention the same as we do as if you're in the room. If you can't give that, especially in the committees, if in an example, we had somebody that was attending while they were driving. Number one, it's unsafe. Number two, they were understandably distracted, and everything like that. Get an alternate. That's what we have them for, and everything. So that kind of expectations, and then the other expectation that I threw out, that I've experienced in chairing these various meetings, is the expectation that you're gonna have the exact same experience at your home as the people that are in the room. We have no control of your internet. We have no control of your technology. We have none of that. So the expectation that you're gonna have the exact same experience is not fair to the COG or the people that are in the room, and everything like that. So, those are a couple points that I threw out as, things that I see, and everything. But like I said, I wanna broach the subject because you're headed right into a general forum meeting and one of the things somebody threw out was about the chat. I will share I was an absolute advocate for doing away with the chat. The chat is like having a sidebar conversation in the remote meeting, or in the actual meeting. We wouldn't accept that, so we shouldn't be accepting that in Zoom and everything like that. So, I get it, you could caucus your peers, potentially and stuff, but you could also do a lot worse. And then anybody that's attending the meeting can do, gets in and blah, 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 all that kind of
It's
stuff.
also public record.
And then, what do you do about minutes?
Yeah.
Yes, absolutely. Well,
It's a nightmare for you.
yeah,
and you
and
keep
that's
them
what most people
private.
don't understand, that it is part of, it is
It's an
technically
official
part
record.
of the public record. They don't really, think it's, in some of the, because you saw that with some of the things that early on that were being put on the chat, it was like, no, and everything. So I'm a strong advocate against the chat being part of, a public Zoom meeting and everything. So, just a couple various thoughts that got thrown out. If you hear anything to the contrary that we're trying to do away with Zoom or anything like that, no. The general forum said this will be a tool available to us. But, I think it was Teresa Lafer and Frank Harden, when we first put this in place, expressed a concern that it was gonna be abused. Abuse, whatever. So do we have to have a doctor's doctor's permission to Zoom? Like, no, you're gonna be a professional and a grown-up, and you know, treat it like a job. Oh, that's right, you're being paid. You know, so treat it like a job and be a professional. So, but I throw that out. We'll talk again next. Again, nothing else on the, or you'll see everything else from the exec as part of the general form agenda that just came out. Pending any questions? PC, Ed.
We met on Tuesday. You already saw the sketch plan that we went over on Tuesday. We also had a work session Tuesday afternoon. We had a group in that looked at the GIS coding and the different types of tools and programs that staff could get to help with looking at different areas of the township, doing overlays over the township. Looking at that, the Planning Commission is recommending to staff, which will then come to council and to Adam and Mike, to possibly buy one of these programs to help them with GIS coding. It can take a look at different aspects of how form-based coding could affect the Dale Summit area. It could be used also when we make any changes to zoning, of what effect it does. And it gives us a future of how we want to plan out our growth in the township. And instead of us looking at something saying, let's make this a PRD, what does it really look like? Because you can't tell on, this gives you three-dimensional visions instead of looking at it on a piece of paper where it's two-dimensional. So some of these programs are very interesting. It will be up to staff to figure out which ones that they want to use, or do they want one, do they want two? So that came out of our work session that was attended by Adam and Mike, as well as staff and the Planning Commission. It also gave us a better idea of what's out there and how to interpret things. So we did that. The week before, I wasn't here, but in that we continued to talk about our sidewalk plan. We got more discussion on that. We did use the matrix on about 7 or 8 different plans. Some of them were, did receive sidewalk waivers. We still have to figure out how to do the pay in lieu of a sidewalk. We need to figure out how much we should charge for those things, where it could be used, that money could be used. Tonight was a good example of that one property that won't be in this new plan if this new plan goes. You know, could the township go and say to those people, we'll put the sidewalk in, instead of having the cost on the property owner? So we're still going ahead with all these things. Hopefully we get done with this as you guys would like us to do in the next 2 months. Does anybody have any questions?
Questions for Ed? Name it? Great.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Oh, one from Lindsay.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I just
Lindsay,
want
go
to
ahead.
add, to Ed's report, we had our 2 new alternate members attending our
Oh,
planning
great.
commission meeting. And they came for the workshop and they stayed for the meeting, so, and hopefully they come back.
And Mr. Fenton was quoted in the article on the Mosaic
Yeah, I
development
saw that.
already, so.
I saw that.
So. Getting right into it. Okay, under reports, diversity, equity, and inclusion. As always, public is invited to add anything of value to this item. Does staff or council have anything to add under reports for that? Staff, no? Council, no? Okay, great. Not seeing anybody in the public? Very good. Continue on. Consent agenda. Staff, if you would Under the CA2 items, maybe you could provide an explanation of the two or the three old items that are on there, or shown on there?
They were, when I was updating the website, with all the meeting minutes from the past 3 years, I just happened to come across 3 things that I did the minutes for them, and the first one was when I was very first new here, didn't get put on the consent agenda, and then the other one was during COVID, and we had lots going on, and we just never got it on the consent agenda for approval. The minutes were done and completed, we just never approved them on the consent agenda.
Great, okay, just wanted that.
Just catch up.
Yeah,
Catch up.
I just thought it would be helpful to have that before we start
Yeah.
into and everything. So the April 21st, 2022 consent agenda consists of 2 sets of minutes, one from our March 29th, 2022 joint council PC meeting, and from our April 7th regular meeting. Under CA2 corrective action approval of minutes, we have the July 18th, 2019 public hearing liquor license transfer. We have the September 29th, 2020 public hearing ordinance O-20-08. And we have September 29th, 2020 special meeting minutes. Under CA3 correspondence, receipt and approval of, we have an email from Daniel Materna dated April 4th, 2022 regarding Pennsylvania Gaming Commission casino-related comments. We have an email from Neil Brandt dated April 5th, 2022 regarding Thompson Woods Preserve. We have note number 11 from Jean Bazan dated April 7th, 2022 regarding wireless communication facility ordinance. D, we have a letter from Center Lifelink dated April 7th, 2022 regarding thanks for contribution of $10,000. E, email from Daniel Materna dated April 11th, 2022 regarding Nittany Mall Casino opposition, now a national news story. And finally, we have an email from Lori Shields dated April 14th, 2022 regarding Daleview Park. Under CA4 action items, we have potential approval of resolution 22-06, May 2022 as Bike Month. Did I get them all, Jen?
Yep.
All right. Does anyone on council wish any of those pulled for further discussion?
I just wanted to note that CA3 also included all of the letters,
Correct.
right, to the Gaming Control Board.
Mr. Chair, I don't want to necessarily pull this, but I just wanted to make a very de minimis observation that in the April 7th minutes, there's no second listed for the Jake's fireworks. So if we could
I
add
have
that.
the minutes, I have the written report that I can
Great.
look that up.
Okay, so
I just didn't wanna have
CA1B
to
will
go
be
back.
as amended.
As amended.
Anything else? If not, I'll accept the motion to approve the consent agenda.
So moved.
We have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second? Go ahead.
Take your pick, Jen. Make sure it gets in the minutes.
Thanks.
So that is the definition of de minimis.
All right, any further discussion? Call a question. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Moving on, old business, OB1, closure of Squirrel Drive for Aspen Heights construction. Dawn is not here. Who's picking up the?
Pinch hitting.
Mr. Bloom.
Yes. Yeah, so as I mentioned, I am pinch hitting for Dawn tonight. I'll try to do him justice, although I don't have quite the batting average that he does. So.
Sure.
As you'll recall, back at the March 3rd meeting of council, staff presented information regarding the potential short-term closure of Squirrel Drive that would be required to perform a grade adjustment associated with the Aspen Heights plan. It was noted that that closure, again, would potentially restrict access to 2 township businesses, Smoker Square and Cove Pizza, and again, would anticipate it to take up to about 2 weeks. You requested of staff that they reach out to businesses, to the impacted businesses to determine what potential impact that would have to their respective businesses. So staff has had some discussions as well as observations with Cove Pizza and Smoker Square. Direct conversations with Cove Pizza, they noted that about 90% of their business, their delivery business, is utilizing the College Avenue exit. Though obviously to their concern, this closure would have a significant impact to their delivery business. I was also observed that the majority of traffic for Smoker Square is coming from College Avenue. And the concern associated with that is during that closure period, would they be willing to utilize a pretty significant detour? The expectation is no, they would not, considering there are other businesses in the relative near locations that sell comparable products. In discussions with Aspen Heights, staff has been informed that the proposed grade adjustment work is anticipated for early June. One of the drawbacks with that closure is while Squirrel Drive is closed, all the construction traffic associated with Aspen Heights would be utilizing the residential streets in Center Hills Village. And obviously that presents some significant concerns and potential for conflicts. Don noted in his memo, just as a reminder, that the right turn lane that's being proposed was not something that was required of Aspen Heights. It wasn't triggered by their traffic impact study, but that any potential development on the adjacent parcel would trigger the need for a right turn lane. With future consideration of that right turn lane, we have looked at it, evaluated it, and it is possible to perform the required grade adjustments that are associated with the Aspen Heights plan as part of the right turn lane construction at some point in the future, and to do so without a full closure, to be able to maintain one lane of access. Aspen Heights developers have offered to contribute $35,000 for the construction of those grade adjustments at such time as a right turn lane project is completed as part of required as part of a future land development. Staff, Dawn in particular, has reviewed the potential work to be associated with the grade adjustment and determined that amount that Aspen Heights has proposed is sufficient for what was anticipated to be done. Further discussions have occurred with PennDOT's traffic construction inspector supervisor, and it was their determination that delaying the grade adjustment would not impact the highway occupancy permit as issued for all the work that's being conducted within the PennDOT right-of-way. So that leaves council with two options as outlined in the memo from staff. Option one is to complete the grade adjustments as scheduled in early June of 2022. This option would require the closure of Squirrel Drive for an approximate time period of 2 weeks. We did note that those two businesses would endure the impacts of that closure, as well as the detour of construction traffic through Center Hills Village. The second option is to accept that $35,000 donation from Aspen Heights as a fee in lieu towards the completion of the grade adjustments and delay the work until such time as a right turn lane is constructed on Squirrel Drive. With the addition of the third lane, it would be possible to perform the regrading while maintaining that one lane of closure one lane of traffic, and total closure of the road would not be required. Staff does come forward with a recommendation to select that council consider selection of option 2, and that would be to accept the $35,000 from Aspen Heights as fee in lieu and delay that work until such time as the right turn lane is needed. This is done with the recognition that the proposed grade adjustment would not be completed in a known time frame. It's kind of contingent at this point on a proposal coming forward on that adjacent property. However, the benefits associated with this delay are that you're avoiding serious potential impacts to the two township businesses, and potentially more importantly, limiting the potential for the detour of construction traffic, through the Center Hills Village. So with that, again, that staff recommendation is that council give consideration to option 2.
Great. Questions for staff? Go ahead.
Just a real quick question, that 35,000 would just come in and stay on the books as part of our budget and be held until such time as that
Yeah,
happens?
we can stipulate and make the arrangement as far as the timing of that payment. It would certainly be prior to any kind of final occupancy,
Okay.
which is a requirement that we've had on some of the other pledges that have been made with respect to that project. But yes, absolutely, it
They
would
would
come into
just-
the books and it would be reserved.
Got it, okay.
Similar to red lights.
That's correct.
I mean, normally there's pros and cons on both sides. This seems like there's an awful lot of cons on one of these. And I can tell you, Center Hills Village would not be happy with those trucks going through there. And that would severely impact those businesses. So, anyway, thank you very much for the opportunity.
Any other questions for staff?
Yeah,
ahead.
just a clarification that, and this is just for my own ear maybe, that a fee in lieu is different. Like, this isn't, we're not keeping this in a separate,
Correct.
right?
It's
A fee in
essential.
lieu has more agreement.
Right.
There's nothing agreed about this 35,000.
It's
If this never goes in, they're never gonna come back, and I'm just saying, this is a very loose,
Well, we
Yeah.
will actually have a memorandum of understanding.
oh, there will be.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes,
And
because
it'll
it's
be
a
a very-
condition of the plan,
Yeah,
correct?
because
Okay.
that's the key, yeah.
Yeah.
This was actually noted as a condition of the plan,
Okay.
which is why so much time has been spent on this particular
Like
item.
we do with the lights, but we're now responsible, I mean, that
Well,
35,000.
there's an obligation, but yes, once.
Do you know what I'm saying? That money itself doesn't have to sit in a special space. And maybe fee in lieu doesn't. Maybe I'm mixing up my
Well,
terminology.
fee in lieu is, in this particular case, is not exact. I mean, you could call it a number of different things. but
Okay,
they're-
okay.
they're-
It's a
they're
looser term than I'm
essentially-
giving it, yeah.
Essentially, they're willing to make that commitment to provide us the $35,000, so it takes it off of their plate, puts it on ours, and the memorandum of understanding will stipulate, you know, the sequence of how that's gonna be handled and when it's gonna be expended.
Gotcha. I mean, that's,
So-
I presumed it was similar to the red lights.
Yeah,
that-
so do we usually classify those as contribution towards future work?
Yeah, how do we classify that?
Well,
I know,
I
like,
mean,
you
in the
just-
broadest sense, it's a reserve.
Yeah,
Reserve.
Yeah.
And that's how it'll show up and be
Sure.
reflected. Should we not have another development come in on that separate piece of property for 2 years, for the next 2 years in our budget cycle, you will see that $35,000 identified as a reserved allocation of
Okay.
fund balance.
and that's an important aspect that we generally don't, you know, like the red lights, it's there and it's there, could be in perpetuity.
Well, right.
The
Well,
intent
this
is
could
that
be
this,
too.
well, or it could go away. It's a discussion point for your memorandum of understanding.
Yeah, gotcha.
Just to give some thought. to
Yeah,
it.
that does help. Yeah, I don't have any problem with number 2. I do really appreciate you reaching out to the businesses. I do think they were the piece that we just needed to hear from. In my mind, they could have come back and had some piece of information about the incline of that road. You know, I mean, it could have been flipped upside down in their interpretation of what their needs were on that. And the fact is, they made it seems loud and clear, which is what I wanted. So I didn't want to assume.
Yeah,
Right,
all credit
that's
to,
it.
to Dawn and his staff on that outreach, but, you know, again, the council wanted to answer that question and clarify.
Yeah,
Right.
so that makes me feel much better.
Well, and so kudos to council for asking the question. I will share that Mr. Bernier supports the staff recommendation. I'll throw that out. I have nothing further. I personally support option 2. Wes,
Missed one.
go ahead.
Yeah, I support option 2, and I just wanted to note, as another consideration in support of option 2, we will have Pike Street, you know, down to 1 lane during that
Yes.
same time frame. So,
Well, maybe this would keep them from using Oak Ridge as their, whatever.
Only for 2 weeks.
Only for 2 weeks, that's true.
If you're ready.
Or
Mr.
would,
Chair.
maybe they would all just line up.
So, staff, do you need a consensus or a motion, or what would you prefer?
Actually, the motion should be motion to accept the developer's offer of the $35,000 and to instruct staff to secure or to draft and,
Memorandum.
to execute a memorandum of understanding for the use of those funds.
Okay. Comfortable?
Yeah.
That sound
that's
good?
it.
That
That
sound
sounded
good?
fine
That
to
sounded
me.
really
I
good.
was- Mine was
Jen,
gonna
you
be
got that?
different, but that sounds very good.
Oh,
We have a motion.
like a
No
challenge.
price, no
We
price.
have a motion.
No.
Do we have a second?
Second?
Okay. Any further discussion?
Jen, did you get it? Okay.
Okay. Call the question. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. Motion carries. New business. Gov HR proposal COG compensation study. Mr. Bloom.
Yeah, again, this is something that each of you are probably familiar with to some extent from your work with COG. But as part of the 2022 budget development, Center Region Council of Governments proposed the completion of a COG classification and compensation study. The proposed study was approved as part of the budget process, and all COG member municipalities were offered the opportunity to participate in some form or function. At the recommendation of Adam, College Township Council had previously allocated a $10,000 allotment to the township's 2022 budget for a township-specific, and I'll point a clarification here, it's not a classification study, it's just a compensation study, township-specific compensation study. My memo misspeaks to that. To be completed by the same consultant being selected to perform the COG study through their RFP process. COG has gone through and had received 5 proposals to their RFP. They went through a selection process. The executive director, finance director, and human resources director reviewed all of those proposals and ultimately selected GovHR, a well-known and qualified management and human resources consulting firm based in Illinois, to perform the selected studies. GovHR is pretty well known here locally. They've been involved with a couple high-level searches recently for executive-level positions. GovHR opted as part of their RFP to provide 2 separate and distinct proposals, one for COG, one for College Township. Attached to the memo was their proposal for College Township, as well as the proposed contract between GovHR and College Township. Just a couple highlights. Their proposal recommends the study will be completed entirely virtually, which allows the cost proposal to stay relatively low. Again, it is just a compensation study, so it's kind of a scaled down version of what COG is going to be doing. And the total amount of the study as proposed for College Township, $9,600. So it comes in under the amount budgeted in our 2022 budget. Study of work would commence within 3 weeks of acceptance of the proposal and is anticipated to be completed within 90 days. That timeline, I will note, assumes that they get prompt responses back from the peer communities that they reach out to that we would be benchmarking College Township against. I included in the memo a breakdown of the study phases, just high level. Phase 1 of the study would be meetings and a salary survey. That would also, as I mentioned, kind of key piece of this is reaching out and finding those peer communities to benchmark ourselves against. They would also conduct a salary survey analysis, review that data with the township representatives, and prepare a draft and final report to the township. All total, they're looking at about 62 hours worth of work, and as I mentioned, at the total of $9,600. So with that, upon review, a detailed review of the proposal included by staff, it is our recommendation that council approve entering into contract with GovHR for the College Township compensation study in the total amount of $9,600.
Excellent. We'll start with our COG HR rep.
Yeah, so I mean, I already saw this.
Yep, that's why we're starting.
Yeah, I have nothing additional to add. I mean, I think this is an excellent move to try to benchmark ourselves. I'm always an advocate of trying to make sure that we have competitive salaries and compensation.
Excellent. Paul, anything?
Just a quick question. Are there economies of scale here? Did we benefit from the fact that we're sort of tagging on to what COG is already doing?
In my opinion, yes, to an extent. I think
We didn't
that,
have to do the legwork?
Well, right. I mean, COG took the initiative as far as selecting the consultant, and that's a big component of this. Given the fact that it's a straightforward compensation study, and again, what we're after is either validation or revision to our existing wage ranges, is primarily what we're seeking here. It was going to be on the lesser side in terms of cost in the overall, but the fact that COG was going out and doing the selection and identifying the best consultant to do the work, I think it has saved us some time, so.
And it was, mainly for folks watching. I mean, it's overdue, and it's a great opportunity to take advantage of that. So that was my point. That's all I had.
Great. And it also, our manager put in a lot of effort several years ago to
Yeah, I've done
take it
this
internal.
on my own three separate times, and once we've had, actually in 2005, College Township, as well as several other Center Region municipalities, participated in the McGrath compensation wage study that was done for COG. So we've had some experience working with COG cooperatively on these in the past, but in the intervening years, that has fallen on the manager to do, and they are time consuming. So the 62 hours is kind of a minimum. These guys do it all the time. They have it down to a science.
Yeah, they're efficient, yeah.
But may I ask one more
Yes,
question,
please.
just based on that? Are there other municipalities that are doing the same thing we are? Ferguson or Patton or anything?
I don't believe there are any other center region municipalities, but I am aware of, this will be the third least compensation study here in Center County. In addition to COG and College Township, the county is also in the process of doing that for their employees.
Using also GovHR?
I'm not sure who they're utilizing.
Don't know that.
Yeah, anyway, just curious. Thank you.
Carla, anything?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know, maybe I'm just a wet blanket, but I really liked the ones that Adam provided.
Thank you, Carla.
Yeah.
But how much is Adam's time worth? Is it worth it?
Oh,
Roughly
can we put a
$9,000?
value on
Can we
it?
put a
No.
value on it? I guess that is, I mean, it is,
Yeah.
it's not, I'm saying it in sort of a joke way, but I feel like that was somewhat recently that we just did this. I get that we're hopping on top of COG and, it's providing some savings. I would have liked to see this come in a couple years. It feels a little early to me, but I'm not in your shoes, so I defer to the guy who's done it 3 times. That's just sort of my gut on it.
I think I feel good about it because it affords an affordable opportunity to validate what Adam did.
What Adam's done, so
Yeah.
that we can have
So,
him do it again.
We won't make fun of him if he was way off or anything. but,
Adam's
you
like,
know.
please be off, please be off.
Yeah, yeah. So I will share that Mr. Bernier was in support of the staff recommendation as well. The one thing I would share from our executive committee discussion on this item, there was discussion that at least we were told in the COG proposal that there's also, I mean, there's some significant potential numbers in the COG one. And the implementation of the result, that GovHR is gonna provide implementation recommendations for their results. So that might be something that, we could try to ask for or something.
Again, given it in the limited scope of
Yeah.
what we're doing, I think that the implementation options are gonna be pretty evident, self-evident, once we receive those results. Whether and how we scale into, so for example, if we're significantly off, and we should be much higher at a wage range, that in all likelihood is not gonna happen all at one time.
Right.
That would be some kind of a phase into.
Right.
over
And
time.
I think what I took out of it was okay, you wanna look at this position right here. If you're gonna start that one, you're not gonna get
Right.
any candidates for, or, those kind of things. So just a discussion.
Yeah, and to Adam's point, given the differences in scope, I think classification may be where you see a lot of things coming for COG, is how positions are classified and then where they fit within those specific wage ranges. In our instances, we're just asking strictly, let's look at these ranges
Right,
and how
no, there
there's that
was
peer
discussion
comparison.
on dollars too. So,
Yeah, oh, I'm sure,
yeah,
I'm sure.
Yeah.
That's a
Pretty,
good point.
very, very significant. So, but I absolutely support, again, I think it validates the efforts and it probably has been at least 3, 4 years, 4 or 5, okay.
Just as an aside, one other note to maybe try to alleviate, Carly, a little bit of your concern is one of the things that we can attest to here recently is just the changes in the labor market. As a result of the last few years, maybe you're kind of pushing the priority of this a little bit as well. It's getting out there and recruiting is not easy.
So I believe if we're in agreement, staff is looking for a motion to approve entering into a contract with GovHR for the College Township compensation study in the amount of $9,600 and execute the documents for the same.
Just as a note of clarification, it does say classification and compensation study.
Right, that's why we've modified the motion.
Yeah, that's my mistake, Dustin. I just carried the language over from the COG study. I should have just peeled classification.
Yeah, because I knew that, and then I was going back through and I was like, wait, did I miss something? Yeah,
Nope.
okay.
No, just my snafu.
The sheriff was asleep that day.
I'll make the motion that Rich just stated previously.
Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Thanks, Dustin. Any further discussion? Call the question. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. Motion carries. MB3, PSATS resolution. Adam, are you leading this out?
Actually, no.
Okay, Paul, are you leading this out?
Sorry.
Mike, are you leading this out?
You jumped
Okay,
over
we're gonna,
92.
Jen, we're gonna work on the,
It says in Bloom.
this is PSATS resolution.
Oh.
Oh, I'm sorry, MB2, I apologize.
I was confused about that too.
I was moving towards the end of the meeting too fast. MB2, CT mission goals, values, Mike Bloom.
He's just trying to get away
I
from
was
me.
like looking at two things. I was trying to
Bloom's
follow along.
talking too much. God, you guys don't understand. You just don't understand.
He's no Don.
This is what happens. No. I'll try to keep this one brief. In 2018, council worked through an exercise to develop a series of shared values and goals. That exercise actually went over a couple years that were, as those values and goals that were defined by the council were refined through discussions with a number of College Township's ABCs through 2019 and 20, ultimately leading to the development of a vision and mission statement as well as those shared values and goals. In 2020, in August of 2020, following a public hearing on the attached document, which was included in your packet, College Township Council approved the current and official township vision and mission statements along with those list of shared visions and goals, or values and goals, excuse me. It was originally envisioned, why we're bringing this back tonight, that College Township Council would revisit this document on an annual basis as part of the development of our capital improvement plan. As we went through the pandemic and all the challenges that were associated with that in 2020 and 2021, we'll admit that it kind of got overlooked. But it nonetheless is still an important piece of that overall puzzle. So we wanted to bring that back as College Township is ramping up once again for development of its latest capital improvement plan and subsequent budget. We felt that it was important to take a little bit of time to reflect on the vision, mission statements, as well as the goals and values. In doing so, just the importance of this is to provide council as well as staff with the proper guidance as we go into the development of those documents. We want to make sure that we continue to have that target in front of us, that we're aiming to have that highest level of public service as well as remaining good stewards of the public tax dollars and making those strategic investments in programs and services that are needed and demanded by our residents. With that in mind, what staff is asking of council tonight was just to take the opportunity prior to the meeting to review the attached document and have a discussion about the visions and mission statements as well as the goals and values to ensure that they remain relevant for that process this year. Recognizing that if more substantive changes were needed or recognized, that we would want to do that in a special work session outside of a typical council business meeting. So with that, just wanted to give that as kind of a segue presentation into your discussion.
I apologize, Mike, and staff for skipping over this, because I sure don't skip over it in how I do my job right here. Actually, I had the opportunity to sit on a round table for local government week, and I referenced this specific document as a valuable tool in doing my job, because one of the questions is how do you prioritize the expenditure of taxpayer dollars? And we have this document that really helps focus me and everything like that. So I appreciate that we have this. The other thing I would remind is that we did at least review this document at our reorganization meeting this year, at least the vision and mission side of it and everything. But it is intended to be a living document, and as situations occur that we can improve it, we should. So with that said, I think I started with Dustin last time. Paul, do you see any glaring deficiencies in the document?
Nothing glaring. I mean, we spent a lot of time on it.
We did.
And reading back through it, I'm gratified to see how well it stands up and holds up. I think it's really good. One thing did come up to me, and I'm kind of surprised it didn't occur to us in the middle of the pandemic, but something about maximizing access and safety and usability of township resources, or access to staff. If we could work in something like that, because I think that's very relevant now. All the work that we've done, not only on the website, but making our meetings available, being flexible in terms of where we are with the COVID numbers and those kind of things. I think some recognition of that would be a valuable addition to this.
To communicate.
Yeah.
Kind of thing. Now, would that be under a goal?
There is,
Would you
the
see that
last
under a
goal is something like that, but maybe there's something
Expound
more
on
you
it.
want to pull out of that idea.
Well, I wanted to throw it out there because, I do think some reference to balancing access and safety and also usability of the resources, because our
I like that.
website is really, it's so much more usable than it was. I think it falls into that category. I think the fact that, we can have folks joining us remotely. I think when we did this, we didn't really have the OWL set up. We didn't have
We did not.
any of
We were
that.
still in some denial.
Yeah, now it's the new reality, right? It's a new normal, and I think our values and our goals ought to reflect that. So
We're only
that-
5 months into the pandemic at that point.
Yeah, we're still newbies when it came to
Still
dealing
using
with
that
the
phone system.
pandemic. Yeah.
Oh, gosh, yes.
Yeah.
I'm so glad we've graduated past that.
I throw that out there.
No, that's very good. Mike,
Better than being
Yeah,
in the
I
same
fan-
room.
made
Yep.
note of that, and we can
Anything else, Paul?
work on this.
No, just again, I was really gratified to see
I
how well
agree.
it
I agree.
stood up.
Carla?
The only reason I was able to point to that so fast is because that was one that I thought, that's a little weak. And I think, if you wanted to work in what you're saying into that last goal there, the other ones just seem so well thought out and, really, really worded, and there's a lot in there, and that one just kind of
hangs
seems,
out there a little bit.
hangs out there as just a little quick. So I would be open to fleshing that out.
I would be
at
open
that.
to your help in.
I was just gonna say,
something.
I'm gonna just suggest, could we
Send
have
me
Mike
something.
work a
Oh, yeah,
draft
Mike's
and then work
Yeah.
with, and then we'll bring it back.
Yeah, so
Any
if I
others?
can just finish.
yeah,
Oh,
let
sorry.
her finish.
No,
Unless
no.
it's about that.
Well, no, go ahead, finish.
Okay,
Yeah.
the thing I caught while reading through again, and I'm happy for anybody to put it on the agenda as many times as you need to throughout the year, because it is a nice exercise to read through. And one of the things I thought about while reading through it was if we're doing something that we can't point to something on this, then we're heading in the wrong direction.
Yes.
And I really appreciated that. So,
Yeah,
yeah.
Everything we do should be drawn directly back to this document.
be able to point to one point in this.
Or
Yeah,
multiple.
Or multiple.
Yeah.
Yeah, ideally multiple, yeah. Carly, that you were good?
That's it, yeah.
Dustin?
You know, just general process, I would be in favor of having a workshop, one being a new council member. So we have a new council, right? We also have, I understand that it was developed in part with some ABC as well. We have new members of that. I don't know if we want to open it that broadly, but I think we should come together for at least a council workshop. Because if we're having any discussion at all, then we probably should have the workshop, right? You know, I would say, hey, you know, probably we don't need a workshop if everybody's like, this is great, and then, you know, that's it. But if we're having any discussion at all, we should probably have that in the workshop and kind of, you know, flush some things out. You know, I saw some grammatical things throughout that probably could be flushed out. One of my biggest comments that I would say, this is a great document, absolutely. I was very impressed. Absolutely, and I thought too that, you know, I said, you know, man, like this should just be right there, to Carl's comment, everything walking back to this. Our website should have this hanging right there on the homepage. Like you should see something along the vision and mission right there as soon as you open up the website. It's buried under government, right? You have to go to the government side and then you see it down and through there. So that's just one comment. And then the other thing, you know, I would like to work the goals a little bit, just in general, because I would just make the comment, I don't think they're really goals. I think they're objectives, which is great. Goals, I think, are more specific, that we talked this a little bit, it'll be more of an annual thing, or you could even have more than annual goals, but you know, they would be the specific things that walk back into the mission and vision statement and those objectives from a year-to-year basis. So really, I mean, I think this could be a living document that maybe gets you know, revisited, maybe doesn't have to be redrafted every year, but those goals are a definite. And maybe that's where we need to have a conversation about, is those goals more so than anything.
Okay.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
Go ahead,
Strictly, I tend to agree with what Dustin is saying. Strictly speaking, what we list as goals really are objectives.
objectives, sure.
And then, if you wanted to drill down to the next level, that's where you get your goals that relate back to the objectives.
So saying like the website redesign would be one of the goals,
Yeah.
or the pedestrian facilities master
Right,
plan
right.
would be a goal or something. Ordinance review, ongoing.
I feel like we had this big conversation
I
at one
think so,
point, but,
too.
and we settled on a tomato.
Yeah.
But we're happy to work, I mean, that was one thing I meant to say, which I didn't, which was I want to hear Dustin's opinion, so there it is.
Sure. Yeah, it's challenging. You could spend an abnormal amount of time trying to get this, and then real world happens and all that goes
We
out the
did
window.
spend a lot.
We did. I don't want to negate that, but that does, just because we did once doesn't mean we shouldn't spend more. And so I guess, is there support for a work session to
Well,
further
Can I
hash?
just one question of clarification, if you don't mind.
Sure.
You bring it to us to say, hey, do we need to do a work session? But is it really, are we saying it's okay just to say it's up to us and close it off? Or should we open it back up like it was when it was developed to the ABCs and saying, hey, does anybody else think we need to, you know, tweak this?
Well, I'll only go based on our experience of having worked through it the first time. We didn't get a lot.
Yeah, okay.
We didn't get much.
I'm not trying to influence it other,
No.
I'm just asking.
But, I mean, we asked, we didn't get much, we went forward, we drafted, we sent it back down through, didn't get a lot of feedback, you know, from it. That doesn't mean we shouldn't, but just having worked the process and everything, I think we're better served to, it's similar to, you know, the fund balance policy. The finance directors are gonna figure out a draft policy and bring it to the elected officials, because if they had to hammer it out from the word go, I know I'm gonna be retired by the time it actually gets done. So,
If there were gonna be wholesale, if we
Yeah.
were anticipating wholesale changes or significant changes,
wanna
complete
become like a court?
rewrite kind of a thing, then I would say, yeah, I think there's value in making sure that you have that other input. If these are refinements and/or enhancements, if we do get to more, creating that category of objectives and then more specific goals, I think that's probably best accomplished by council. For the reasons that you
And then
indicated.
seek buy-in,
Yeah. I mean,
from the
these are great I agree with all these comments, these are great, I mean, we're establishing a process, right? We could have a workshop just on the process, and maybe not
Yes,
doing anything
yes.
to this.
We have a meeting about the meeting
I
about
think
the
that's kind of
meeting.
what Mike's getting to, right?
Yeah,
Like,
No, and honestly, your comment, Dustin, it raised the question in my mind of, it may be not so much a overhaul of what we have here in terms of the vision and the mission and values, because honestly, I could turn those goal statements that you have here into values pretty quick. But as part of the CIP process, I do think where you're at, Dustin, is very important. And thinking about what the goals are for that CIP on a 5-year rolling basis. And it was something, Paul, you said about the website. So if we were to go back, 1 or 2 CIPs ago, the recognition that the website wasn't sufficient, particularly once we got into the pandemic. It was not sufficient for what we wanted to achieve, or at that point had to achieve in a touchless environment. I think that's something that, I could see that being an outcropping of a work session. Maybe these goals get reshaped into just value statements. So you have your vision, your mission, your values, and then on an annual basis, you're talking goals. What goals are sufficient did you meet in year 1 of the capital improvement plan? And how do those shift and become kind of that rolling discussion as that CIP evolves? And it's discussions that Adam and I have had offline about taking the CIP from kind of it's almost, I don't want to say rubber stamp type of a document on an annual basis to become more of an aspirational document as well. You have to have that piece, things that you just need that have to be in there.
Yep.
But there are also things that
We
this
want to
group
do.
wants and our residents and our constituents want that maybe we're not necessarily hitting the mark. And I think this discussion may lead to that.
Right. And-
Right.
Yeah, well, and
It's
and
that
I
strategic
think we're
part.
in the crawl, walk, run, for sure. So just that we're having this discussion. I mean, we didn't have this until August 20 of 2020.
Sure.
And everything, so that we're having this discussion, less than 2 years later
I could
is
see
progress.
the reshaping of the introduction of the CIP to be, here's our vision, our mission, and our values.
Yeah.
Here's our goal statements
Yeah.
that we have for that 5-year plan. Here's the 5-year plan.
So I think Mike should just write a policy.
I wanted to add too, I mean, when we meet every year and talk about our goals for the manager, and I think you mentioned this when we met, this would be a nice opportunity to take the goals term out of here and pull that and then point those back to these as well. So, and then the other piece I wanted to mention about opening it up is, this is all discussed. I mean, we can have a work session, which is still a public meeting. So it's not that this isn't like a closed door thing. If people want to come, they can.
Sure.
So I think, I don't lose any sleep over not having doing that whole process again of sending it out. I mean, maybe we can just let everybody know once, if they want to come to the public meetings, they're welcome, that we're looking
Got it.
at it.
Yeah, ABC members are residents.
Exactly, exactly.
So, yeah, but going back to the point, do we feel we need a work session to do this, or are we?
My
do we let-
sense is that we may not need that if we can come back with some draft language and maybe rework some of those into objectives. Maybe we do a draft and then a work
Okay.
session if we need it. I don't know, but Dustin, I defer
Yeah,
to you. in
I
terms
just
of
think,
your
I'm
report.
starting to get the tinglies in the back of my neck for a brainstorming session here, when Mike's talking. I mean, I think that maybe not necessarily for larger visions, because I don't see any need for larger visions in this, to Adam's point, I think this standing alone is a good foundational thing. I think maybe the work session is hinging on the process, right? And we get to come together, say, hey, you know what, let's set aside the time and let's establish that whole process of how we want it to look moving into that walk phase, right?
Oh, I thought we were in the walk phase.
We crawled, now we're in the walk and reviewing.
Yeah,
We're taking our first step.
this is here tonight because from a timing standpoint,
Yeah.
this is going to mesh fairly well in the event that there is a need for a work session or that we decide to have a work session with the introduction of the CIP later in May. So,
The only thing I'm gonna throw out, because of the timing, and because we have not road tested this through the CIP process, do we let this one stand and work it in the current CIP and see where the holes are? Just simply because of timing. As, you know, we spent a lot of time getting to this point because we wanted to get it. And we haven't road tested against that goal of the CIP.
Yeah, to your point, Rich, maybe that's a good way to tackle this as kind of a interim step, is to where Dustin was of, you know, those kind of goal statements. You're gonna be working through the CIP anyway.
Yeah.
If there are some of those kind of larger, long-term aspirational things aren't showing up, that's an opportunity to have a discussion about goal statements. So, you know, I could go several ways
Sure.
with this in terms of
I think I'm
strategic
looking
planning.
at it from the timing standpoint, in that we don't have time to delay the CIP to get this, you know, and that's my concern.
Sure.
And the fact that it hasn't been road tested against.
Can we carry like a memo along with it that like captures the thoughts along the way and, you know, kind of some of the reactions we're having?
Absolutely, I would hope we would do that.
Yeah.
Like a lessons learned document.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and it gets back to, I think, where you were, Dustin, is walking through the process will teach us the process too. You know, what's working with the process, what's not necessarily
Yes.
working with the process, how this gets incorporated as part of that process, what discussions we need to have about this or other associated documents as part of that process.
Yeah, two ways to approach it. You build the process and then find out how it doesn't work when it reaches reality. Or you use the process, you memorialize the process that you use and, you know, for the future.
Yeah, I think there's an opportunity as we walk through this CIP to have not only discussion about the CIP, but some in-depth thought and discussion about how is this process working?
Sure.
You know, and what do we need to do to make sure that we're hitting that target that this is trying to put up there on the board for us?
I would like to see us, though, come together specifically for this work session type, at some point, though, before the new year, so we can hit the ground
Agreed,
running.
agreed,
Okay.
agreed. Well, and to both of your points, it should be used to inform the manager's
That's what I'm
evaluation
thinking,
and
right? I don't
goal
want to hit that
for the
date
future.
and then
Right,
still be
right.
kind
So
of fumbling.
I'll put, or Mike, if you could put a note in our CIP discussions of when we should be reforming to have the greater discussion.
Yeah, and that's what I'm speaking to, someone on that process,
Yeah.
right? So that we have a rhythm on
Yep.
an annual basis.
Right.
That this now is
Right.
part of.
And I think the other example, I'm fairly involved with the COG CIP, the new COG CIP
yeah,
process
right.
and everything. It's 2 months behind already. You know, I don't wanna see that happen
Yeah, we don't
here.
want that.
I don't wanna see that happen here, but.
probably September before we venture in full bore
Full
into
budget.
the annual budget prep is probably the right time
Great.
to come back. So that'll give us the opportunity to incorporate what we have at the moment into the upcoming CIP, give it the road test, come back in September and do the refinements. or the evaluation, if you will.
If we could back that to August, please.
Well, and that's fine.
Please.
Yeah, I'm thinking
Yeah, I know.
August, September,
Just-
August.
Yeah, well, one of the things I would offer as we're going through the CIP too is that there's some opportunities to have some discussion on measures.
Yeah.
As part of our usual discussion of the CIP, maybe we throw a few probing questions in there also about,
Yes.
how's this working? What are we trying to achieve?
Well,
Where
the
are
other,
they
the other part, staff has to have, like, when they're proposing something, when they're bringing something forward, in their mythology, it should be built off out of, have a basis, have a toe in at least to this.
Our CIP process heretofore has been very nuts and bolts,
Yes.
okay? It needs to be more because our citizens demand more. It is a pathway for us to be aspirational, to reach, to become and create excellence in the community.
Yep.
And that's one of the things that I'm hoping before, whenever it is I leave, I would like that to actually take root.
Be a legacy.
Pardon
Be
me?
a legacy for it.
Well, I don't know
We'll
about
call
that,
it the
but,
Adam document.
He's in his prime.
Right?
The Miller formula.
We'll call it the Miller formula.
Brumball.
The Brumball formula,
But
Or
it
the-
really.
Maybe not quite, okay.
or the two Bs,
The B and B
the
formula.
two Bs.
Sorry to go off, Rick.
Anyway, that was it.
Track.
It's-
Are we, can we,
I think
so
we're-
That was
Yeah.
well
I
said.
think,
Yeah, I think so too.
but can we also ask for some, to Paul's point on that one, just maybe some preliminary, just some,
Yeah, no, I understand what you're asking for, Paul, and what I'll probably do is bounce it off you just to make sure I'm hitting the mark
Yeah,
of what you have in
great,
mind, and then we'll.
perfect, and Carla as well.
Yeah,
All of us are gonna see it eventually.
You will all say it better than I will.
I wouldn't say that. Thank you.
Okay, we're good there, Mr. Manager?
We are.
All right, very
Thank
good.
you.
MB3 PSAS resolution, Paul.
No, me.
Damn you.
All right.
Thank you, Adam.
Real quick,
You're right.
just to
It
set the
says it, right?
stage.
It does.
Okay, thanks.
He told me when I mistakenly introduced it the last time, he said, no, actually,
That's
I'm not.
because he thought you were talking about the
Mission
other.
and vision.
Yeah, whatever. I give up. I'm gonna resign.
Okay.
Don't.
So just a little bit of a preamble. Each and every year, PSAS, Pennsylvania State Association of Township Supervisors, has an annual conference. Prior to those conferences, each county in Pennsylvania, so all 67 counties in Pennsylvania, have their county association of township officials. And those township officials gather at least a few times a year. In Center County, it's twice a year. There's a spring and a fall convention meeting of the county elected officials, second-class township officials. And one of the opportunities available to the Association of Township Officials is to prepare resolutions of topics and areas of concern that they would like to present to PSATs as an organization, which are then utilized to assist PSATs in setting the direction for the overall organization. So, as we know, PSATs does a lot of training, PSATs does a lot of lobbying on behalf of second-class townships, and these resolutions are utilized to assist the organization in basically developing their work plan for the coming year. So, what we have here this evening are the 50 resolutions that are going to be considered at the annual overall convention, which is taking place in Hershey, beginning Sunday and ending Wednesday afternoon of this coming week. And we have Paul as our voting delegate, and there are a variety of different types of resolutions that are included here. You've all been provided that list. You've all read what the resolutions are. The way that these work is once the resolution comes from the county association, they go to the PSAT's resolution committee, who then reviews those and makes a recommendation. And part of what was included in the packet this evening is both the resolution from the county that originated it, as well as the recommendation from the PSAT's, which is the overall PSAT's resolution committee. So the way that they work this is it's an on-off switch kind of a thing. It's either the resolution committee supports the resolution that was presented by an individual county, or they oppose it. And so what we're here to do tonight is to provide the voting delegate with some additional clarification and your thoughts relative to all the various resolutions that are going to be considered this coming week. So with that,
I can tell you the last resolution that the Center County Association of Township Officials sent to PSATs was introduced by Snowshoe Township on joint use roads for like off-road
ATVs
vehicles,
and-
ATVs. So that was the last one that Center County has sent down to. We need to be more active as a county, I think, sending these, like you can see Bucks County has lots of
Meeting until
resolutions.
after the
There was
conference.
one, wasn't there?
Yeah, I know. Well, this was a bad year. I know. It was just,
Yeah. Wasn't there one
I
that
need more help.
we
in
were
the county
working on?
association. What?
I feel like, I'll ask you offline, but I
There
feel like
was
there
one-
was one we kind of were trying to get started.
That was several years ago. That was in
Was
like
it that long ago?
2017.
The pandemic is just a blank
Yeah,
in
it
my
was a long
brain.
time
I keep
ago.
thinking that 5 years ago was 3 years ago.
It was
and
about 5 years ago.
3 years ago was 1 year ago. Gotcha.
Which is right around the same time as the compensation.
compensation stuff.
I'll have to look back at that. Okay.
Okay, so how are we gonna eat this one?
I did the preamble, I was
Okay.
referring to Paul then.
So the other preamble, I suppose, or the other addendum to your preamble, is the way that these things are voted on is there's an enormous ballroom, and all the voting delegates have a placard, a little piece of paper, and they call a question, and you hold it up, and there's folks around the room who count heads. Most of the time, they don't have a lot of counting to do.
Right.
Because it's pretty one-sided. However, every once in a while, there are some that come down to it, and the last meeting, there was actually one resolution that failed by one vote. So I think it's worth going through, just for those watching. What I did was I went through all 50 recommendations, and I noted the 7 that I disagreed with the recommendation that was there. I also noted another 7 that I tended to disagree with, but was open to input. And by the way, these are all my personal assessments of them. And then there were 4 that I tended to agree with, but had some questions because of unclear wording or something like that. Many of these are not necessarily clear, so
Don't get the
oftentimes at
full
these
picture.
meetings, they will clarify if someone asks a question, or the sponsoring county gets up and clarifies. So we will not be able to resolve all of these because I think the wording is unclear in some cases.
And just to confirm, anyone that you don't specifically mention, you
I
you
am in
support-
concurrence
you
with
concur
the resolution committee's
the resolution
recommendation.
committee. Okay,
Correct.
okay, great.
So unless we want to go through them line by line, Mr. Chair, however you would like to.
Well, I would think, let's start this way. Are there any that Paul does not show on his short list?
Oh, did we?
Did you get that? Did you get that?
This afternoon.
No,
I'm sorry,
I didn't
what's
get the
this
update. Was that
afternoon?
in an email?
No, this is
It
Paul,
was.
this is from
Paul
Paul.
had sent his email.
In an email?
Yes,
That's what
yes,
I'm saying.
yeah,
I
yeah,
didn't
you
know,
did get it.
sorry.
Okay,
I mean, I
Do
can
you
get
have a
it. I
list
don't,
of ones
I
that
work all day.
I actually created a
A
list
matrix.
if you wanted to put it up.
It's the red pill or
I
the
think I
blue?
captured it correctly. Paul's, I have the resolution number, the PSAT's recommendation, my assessment, and Paul's. We can always hide mine, and we can look at Paul's and discuss that too.
Do you want to send it to me and I can just do it on the screen?
and then
or
I
no?
have,
Yes, that's what I'm asking for right
Yeah,
if
mine's
there's any
on
that,
computer.
that Paul doesn't have. And
And
I
I
would like
do.
to identify any that Paul doesn't have on his list, because then we can make a global statement that we support any of the ones that we're not talking about at that point.
But I didn't go through your list and like check it, you know what I mean? I read.
But did you have your own list?
I
or-
did, I have two that weren't on his list.
Okay,
but-
perfect.
Okay.
So Carla indicated 2201 and 2211 as also that she had questions on from what the resolution committee's
Oh, so for
recommendation was.
questions, yeah. I
Well,
mean, I
this was
just
my
had-
disagreement, this was,
Yeah,
these are
that's-
things.
That's
yeah.
great, then we would put those,
I just
we would
list
put this
them,
one
yeah.
up here, we put 2201 and 2211 in Paul's first category, which is recommendation I disagree with. So that's what you're saying, right?
And I was a disagree with 10 as well.
Well, it says I tend to disagree with.
I
so-
know.
And that's
right.
fine.
Yeah, so it's, that we can have that
See,
discussion.
I
Just
did
wasn't
mine,
sure
but
how-
I disagreed with Paul, that's identified.
Oh, that's fine too. Is there any besides the ones that Paul identified, that you identified?
I just think ones, so Paul had, you had 2204 that he wanted discussion on, right?
Yep.
Yeah,
2205 as well, right?
Yep.
yeah,
2207, right?
Yes.
yeah.
2208 is mine.
Yes.
I had that
Yep.
as I disagreed with that
Yep.
one.
No,
Yeah,
we'll just,
Yeah.
Yep.
2209 Paul had as
Yep.
indicated. Paul had 2210, right?
yes.
Okay. I would like to look at 2213.
Okay, is that you
it was down at the
disagree?
bottom.
You disagree with the,
Yes,
yeah, it's down here.
Yeah.
Although it's tend to agree, so we're still good.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, Paul
We do
has
have it
that
accounted for.
indicated as well.
Yep.
Paul also has 2214 indicated that he'd like to discuss. I would like to just have better clarification on 2218. In general, like, I didn't say I went either way on
Okay.
that one.
So we'll put I'll add that, that's in.
All right, so, yeah, 2225, I would like to look at.
Yep,
2229, I would like to look at.
okay, yep,
Let me just say the last number now.
yep, that's fine.
34, 35,
What would you like with 34 and 35 to discuss?
yeah,
Okay.
36,
Okay,
38,
okay,
and 41.
41, okay, yep,
And then I will add actually that 2204 is the one that looks very close to one that we had discussed putting forward, but had already been put forward. This was a couple years ago, I think. It's about the recycling grant money not being spent by the state first.
Some of those were from 21, they said, right?
Well, this one's new, but I feel like this was one we brought up.
Which one were you talking about in here?
2204, it talks about the recycling grant money.
Yeah.
But you probably have more knowledge of it because you have more knowledge of maybe some of the state side of it, I don't know, but.
right, but that is in
Anyway.
Paul,
Like a-
that is in Paul's.
I do agree with 2204, which is in
So, great,
opposition to what
we
Paul
just
said.
narrowed
Okay.
our work considerably. So let's start with 2201, which resolved that PSAT seek legislation to require that the State Department of Environmental Protection immediately issue all necessary permits for emergency relief that would allow municipalities to perform standard flood mitigation to remove stream impediments such as gravel bars that will prevent the exacerbation of flooding before, during, or after a flood event. Now, Carly, you brought that up as a concern.
Yeah, just a concern. Gravel bars are like very important for natural habitat and all kinds of things in streams, and this just seems like just a little bit of potential for digging around where digging around isn't needed. So I just see bucket loaders in streams
Yeah.
where they maybe
doesn't
aren't
seem likely.
necessary.
Well, yeah, by people, they're trying to solve the immediate emergency, but they're potentially creating, something else.
If I might, this was very similar to one that was discussed the last time. And it's more about DEP expediting the permit not doing it in the absence of a permit, but making sure that DEP doesn't
Oh,
sit on it.
got it, okay.
That's the issue. So, and
That's why
again,
I
my reading of this
Okay.
is not that DEP is sidelined, it's that they just do their job
So
in
this-
in as
Yeah.
expeditious a manner as possible, in which case I believe that is supportable.
I think that's, you know, the immediately issue, you know, that DEP immediately issue. It's kind of a directive, you know, like you immediately issue. You don't necessarily see that.
It says like immediately review or
Yeah,
end
yeah.
issue.
Yeah.
I guess
That-
that's the piece. It reads to me like, give me the permit,
Immediately
we're
issue.
in an
Yeah,
emergency.
like DEP, but DEP isn't gonna give up that,
Right.
They
There's
can't.
still going to be a permit.
Yeah.
There
There's a
has to be-
process.
It's a process, yeah. And to Paul's earlier point, most, if not all, of these resolutions are terribly worded. They
It's
just
fact.
are.
It's fact,
They,
yeah.
they
You should
just
see how
are,
they
but
first come.
but
This is
well,
after a
but
lot
the
of
point
wordsmithing.
is,
Right.
They get edited down for simplicity.
Brevity,
For
yeah.
brevity, and you lose that nuance.
And sometimes edit it up for any clarity at all.
And
Right,
so,
right.
that, just keep in mind as you're
Okay,
reading
yeah.
through these, you know, there
Okay.
may be
Well,
some-
not only is, it's a
My
it's a non-binding resolution, it doesn't accomplish.
It doesn't accomplish
It just says it's gonna, you know,
Right.
so,
And that's
that, we're never
actually-
gonna see that in a law, you know?
Right.
It just gives a direction, and we have to decide whether we're
Okay,
completely in favor or completely against the direction. That's basically what it
But
is.
that's a good thing to know,
Yeah.
for the public to hear.
Yeah.
oh, we're not voting on these
Yeah,
ourselves,
No,
yeah.
I know, yeah.
Yeah.
No, I just-
They're not ours, and they're not PSATs either,
Yeah.
you know, good luck. Convince the legislature or the or the regulatory body that has,
But it is what we're spending their time
yeah.
Yeah.
hammering at, which
Yeah.
is still important.
Yes, yeah,
And it deserves our attention too, because,
Yep.
you know, these are taxpayer dollars that go into this.
absolutely.
Yeah.
So, are we okay supporting the supported?
It
For 2201?
sounds like there's more to it than is there, so
Yeah,
as long
I
as
trust
that's
in
what is
Paul.
more to
Yeah,
it, then
I
I'm fine.
think, I think that you know, DEP is not gonna abdicate their duties to issue ballot
Right,
permits.
but I guess
so.
I look at it like if it looks like all the townships are like, DEP abdicate, like, that's.
Even if they do.
I know, but that's just like not,
Yeah.
what are we doing? Like,
I-
what's
The
our?
last time the similar one came up, it passed with about 95% of the people in the room supporting something very similar to this, about making
A
DEP
lot
move
of things
faster.
pass, this is nice.
Yes, that's what I'm
Right,
saying.
right.
But still.
Okay, that's fine, I'm
it's
ready.
still- It's still 8 to 12 months.
Yep, okay. I'm gonna try to tackle these in
Okay.
numerical order. I think the next one I see is 4.
Yeah, and if I might.
Yes, please. No,
The
I want you
reason
to
that
leave
I
everything
did
in your
this
list.
was because I dug in a little bit into Act 101, and there are actually 4 sections that are relevant where it pertains to grants, funding, and reimbursements. And this resolution elevates Section 904, which is specific to the recycling performance grants, above the other 3. One of which is a recycling grant program development and implementation award. Now, that's another one that's relatable to municipalities, and there are 2 others that relate to funding of county programs. So it seems to me that they're elevating one section above the others. I would say if it was worded in a way that all of the funds need to be expended on one of those 4 sections, that would make sense, but instead they're elevating the municipality over the county programs. If that makes sense. If
Yes.
you dig into Act 101 a little bit deeper, they're cherry picking that one section. And again, I think it's going to pass regardless of what we say. However, that was my rationale.
Sure. Thoughts?
I agree with Paul's assessment on this one.
Well, this is his wishy-washy one, so.
Yeah, I'm in support of it, even if it's even if it's not completely correct, again, like, this is an important issue. The state keeps using our recycling grant fund money and then saying, oh, there's no money left, sorry. And they're just balancing the budget with monies that are supposed to come back to us.
And that's covered in number 3.
Oh, is that number 3?
Yes.
It says,
Okay.
opposed transfer of any funds from the recycling
Oh,
fund
that's the
to
one.
the general fund.
Great, great,
That
great.
one, I definitely am in
That's-
support of.
that's the
It was
one.
a
You support
4.
their support, yes.
Yes, I
Yes.
Okay, that's the
concur
one.
with the support. Maybe we need to.
Wait, so 2204, Paul was saying that he opposed,
Correct.
he does not agree
Yes.
with them.
Correct.
Agree, disagree, I think is maybe what we need
Yeah,
to
actually,
say.
that was Dustin's
Yeah.
idea. These should be agree or disagree with the recommendation that comes along with this.
Well, that's what I did.
No, but I meant, rather than say support or oppose,
Oh,
We could just use
I
that.
see. Oh, I see. Okay.
From the resolutions committee.
Yeah,
you're
from the
saying.
resolutions
Gotcha,
committee.
okay.
Yes.
So I disagree with
We're
the
gonna put
recommendation
Dustin
on
on
number
the
4.
resolutions committee.
Yeah, good luck.
But I agree with the recommendation on number 3.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, right, we're not talking about anything that we concur with the resolution committee's stance. So we didn't have that on. 2204, based on Paul's knowledge and everything, I support the disagree.
I can support that. That's,
Okay.
with
I support the
2203,
disagree.
Okay,
then I
so-
can support
So
22.
move 22.
The disagreement of
2204
2204.
moves up from your
I was gonna
10.
lose his mind.
I can concur
Thanks.
with the disagreement.
We need a matrix
So what he's
just for
gonna do is
the
he's
wording.
not going to raise his hand when they say,
If he raises his hand,
I can
Jen,
sit
you
on my hand.
smack him.
I mean, like, you know, you're gonna.
We'll keep him
That's what
straight.
you're saying, don't raise your hand on number 5.
Continuing
Number
on.
4.
Continuing
Number
on,
4, yeah.
2205. Resolve that PSAT seek legislation to require the private organization using fire police be solely responsible for workers' compensation insurance or other insurance for those fire police.
As written, that seems to make sense, but I don't know what the gotchas are in there, and it may come out in the discussion if
Yeah.
somebody stands up and objects.
Yeah, without knowing what the other side of
I'd be
it is.
neutral on that one.
Yeah,
So,
yeah, I support that one.
Yes,
You
I
know,
tend to support it.
I concur with the resolutions committee's support, so I would put that in, we're not
This
talking.
is way too complicated.
You're damn straight.
I'm
it is.
sorry, it's.
It's
I
not
don't know
you.
Any way to do it
It's not
otherwise.
you. 2207.
Yeah.
Now imagine
Resolve-
doing this with 400 people.
Resolve that PSAT seek legislation to authorize EMS volunteers to serve with minimum certification and training requirements while they obtain experience.
Terribly worded. What is minimum certification?
Yeah.
Does that mean minimum EMT certification? Does it mean
A first aid
somebody handed
certification.
them a
Yeah,
box
without
of
knowing what
Band-Aids?
they're gonna be
Well,
allowed
it
to
reads
do
to
or
me
not
like
do.
all the certification they need until they can get their
OJT.
hours. Like up to the point to get their experience, but they can't get their experience because they don't have the experience. Like we deal with this in childcare. Now you can't you can't be in childcare unless you have so many hours in childcare. It's just like,
And you
you're
can't
not
get
paying them
the-
anything anyway.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, my son is an EMT. and
I know, so you're on the
remember-
inside of it,
Well,
so.
sort of. I don't,
It's too blank a check
yeah.
for me, I guess.
And maybe depending on the conversation or if anybody objects or brings up a conversation, but I would tend to oppose it just the way it's written. It needs more detail.
I disagree with how it's written, yes.
Okay, very good.
More commas.
That's moved up into the upper,
I don't know how
all
to
right.
say this.
2208, resolve the PSAT seek legislation to facilitate the state reimbursement of EMS jobs and high priority for training.
In my mind, their reason for opposing this is really
Could be
dumb.
applied to everything in here.
Yes.
well, and they use it everywhere.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
And this is a critical issue. There is a
It is.
crisis in
It is.
EMS across this
Yeah.
state. To oppose this on that grounds just seems
Agreed.
absurd.
Oh, I missed that this was even an oppose. It just seemed like
Yes,
such an
yes,
easy yes.
yes,
I didn't
yes.
even see that it
Yeah,
was opposed.
so-
Well, but read the explanation
Yes,
of why they
yes,
opposed it.
yes.
That's insane.
Sometimes
Yes.
I disagree with their
Right.
their reasoning.
Right,
But there is no reason.
all right. So I
You can
concur.
say that about everyone that's written.
Absolutely. That's what bothers me. So I concur with Paul's.
The opposition.
Disagreement to the opposition.
Disagreement
Yes,
to the
yeah.
recommendation.
2209.
Okay.
Yeah.
PSAT seek legislation and necessary state constitutional amendments to allow the development of a uniform county law enforcement department.
I don't understand why we're making a recommendation about a county law enforcement if it's the PSATs.
Small-
that's where I was.
Northern communities.
But it's by the over 10,000 population committee that forwarded it.
It
And I
could
don't
be-
understand.
It could be Bradford, or,
It's interesting because my brother is in Maryland, which is county driven. It's
Yep.
county driven,
Yep.
whereas Pennsylvania is not. And
I mean,
everything, so.
I tended to disagree with it. I'm certainly open to other ideas. It just seemed like an outlier to me.
There's not enough meat in there for me to disagree with it, I guess.
Yeah, that was one that you said that you oppose initially reading it, right?
Well, I tended to.
10, but it's open to input.
Yeah.
I read it about 4 times before I could wrap my head around it, but then I decided that it seemed like one of those ones that certain people needed for a certain
It's so
situation.
innocuous
yeah,
that
I'm not sure why it came out of the over 10,000 population committee. But regardless of where it came from, I do think that there is potential application for this in certain counties in Pennsylvania.
Yep.
Yeah, so I would, yeah.
I
think-
support the resolution.
Yeah, I support it as shown.
Okay.
2210, resolve that PSAT seek legislation to accurately reclassify 911 professionals, the very first responder, in the federal standard occupational classification system as protective service occupations alongside police, firefighters, security
Again.
guards, lifeguard, blah, blah, blah.
I disagree
I
with
agree.
the opposition.
You're
Me too.
I disagree with the opposition.
I was at
Yep.
2210 as well.
Yep.
The only thing I'm gonna say about that
Yeah.
is that I agree with the opposition. Only because there is nothing that PSATs is gonna be able to do to make modifications to the standard occupational classification system. That's a federal
this
classification
SOCS.
system.
No, but aren't they saying to reclassify 911 in the state of Pennsylvania to that standard? It's a federal standard, and they're saying Pennsylvania's would fall under that.
There is only one SOCS,
Right, understood.
okay, and that's used nationwide.
Well, hold on, but the reason is that it doesn't affect townships. It doesn't say the reason is that it will have no effect on the federal government.
Their rationale for their opposition is incorrect.
Okay, so you disagree with the rationale, but you agree with their opposing opposition.
I agree with that.
I don't oppose, I take it differently. I don't oppose it just because we don't have a say in it. We're gonna have Neely in here talking about something that we directly don't have. We're encouraging the federal to do something.
Fair.
You know, and that, we've run into those all the time. And unless we don't support 911 people being in the protective service occupations,
And that wasn't my point.
yeah, I didn't think so. The reality is, no, we're not gonna influence this.
Right.
You know, but okay, we'll say.
It's tilting at windmills.
Well, but it does seem like a pretty serious issue that we've just undergone, right, like through. And are you telling me that 911 service operators had to go home during the pandemic? That's the issue, right? Or no?
No.
No, this is something.
This is
My-
recognition.
The way I read
It
this
is.
was.
And I would
it's
say,
not-
you know, post-traumatic stress is real to 911 operators, and different things like that, so,
If I might, I didn't read it as changing the SOCs.
no.
Just taking and reclassifying individual workers, aligning them to.
The 911
SOCs.
professionals,
And
yes.
that was the way that I read it, not that we were modifying the federal guidelines. It was just, you can categorize people in the different buckets,
Yes.
and that's the way I read it. So that's why I disagreed with the opposition.
I disagree with the opposition.
Okay,
Okay.
I hear a consensus, that's moved up. You got that, Paul?
Yes.
Okay. 22.
11.
Do I have 11?
I do.
Yes, you did, 2211.
Okay.
Resolve that PSAT seek legislation to amend section 1536 of the second-class township code to allow townships to take ownership and control of cemeteries prior to such cemeteries becoming neglected and/or abandoned.
I thought one was interesting because as we found out that townships can maintain cemeteries so they don't become neglected and abandoned. So it just seems like something that could potentially be abused. Like, oh, just wait till it's classified as neglected and abandoned and then we'll take the land over? It doesn't make any sense to me. Just take care of it while it exists on somebody else's property. Why do you need ownership?
State law allows you to do that already.
That's what I'm saying.
That's not, yeah, that's what
Yeah,
I'm
it seems like,
Yep.
right?
So I would,
Paul has.
No,
I
I'm just,
didn't
it's
really
just
think about it.
the wording of
Yeah.
it, right?
Yeah.
Allow townships to take control prior to such.
but they
We
don't
already
need that
have
tool.
that.
They already have the tool to maintain it under the law.
And it also feels like arrest them before they commit a crime. It just seems wrong.
In our interpretation.
In our
Or-
interpretation.
I didn't key in on that either, now that because words mean things, right? Take ownership is.
Yeah.
That was the
huge
piece that stood out to me,
right?
was
Yeah.
taking ownership, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so we disagree with the support.
Yes, so that goes up into. the
All right,
upper-
fair enough.
Excellent, thank you. Okay, continuing on in order, I'm seeing 13.
That was,
Resolve the PSAT seek a change in regulations that would allow municipalities to purchase cinders for winter road use that are not approved by the State Department of Transportation but would meet requirements set by municipalities.
I simply didn't know enough about that one. I tended to agree with it, but, I mean, I don't know.
If it's on a township road,
Yeah,
I don't know.
I don't have an opinion on this. I mean, historically, many municipalities have used cinders for years and years on roads. I'm assuming the PennDOT has gotten away from speccing that because of potential environmental issues over time, but I don't know how big of an issue this.
But it doesn't say cinders at all, it just says cinders not, they want
Approved.
cinders not approved
Yeah.
by
that's
the
how I read
DOT.
it.
It sounds to me like somebody's got a cinder company.
Obviously, this is
Or
up in the.
somebody
county-
has to burn
the
coal ash,
whole-
take
I
the
mean,
coal
it's
ash
up
and throw it in the back of a truck and spread ash.
It's in Bradford County, so it's where all the
careful, careful,
trucks are and.
This is being recorded.
careful. My parents are from Bradford.
I disagree with the support on this one. That's what I came out at.
I didn't disagree with it, I just kind of felt like, yeah, it was probably a smaller place where,
Yeah. So-
No, the environmental side of that, I support the position that they're holding. So I would, I put that in the agree category myself.
So you
just because
agree with the support?
Yeah, I agree with the stated position of the resolution committee, but just
And
from
I
the
tended
environmental
to
aspect
that
of
way,
it,
but
then they're saying they don't want it to be a,
Right,
Approved.
so somebody, that's what I'm saying, I'm sorry, wait a minute. Did I read it wrong?
yeah, I think so. I mean, environmentally, you would disagree with,
Okay,
the
so that
opinion.
would, all right, yes.
Yeah, because I'm
Yep.
making the assumption that DOT has said these are okay to use because, we vetted them out, right?
yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so that would be a disagree with
Okay.
the indicated position.
And then
Great.
that goes for 14 and 15, yeah? Or no?
I'm
Any
just
different?
going there, 14,
yeah.
yes. Yes, I would agree, I would
Okay.
say the same thing.
Yeah, because those are all consistent.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
and then 15, okay, 15 is up here, and you already had that 10 to disagree. Yep, okay. All right, so we're up to 18? 18, 2218.
I brought this one up.
Yep.
I just wanted to know if anybody had insight on this or knew what it was more about.
The other thing that you can, sometimes you can infer what they're talking about from the previous resolutions. There's a theme that's occurring beginning with 2216, 2217, and 2218. So all of these are kind of driving the same point home.
Act 50.
So,
Act 50,
which
it's
is
just
more of an
this.
Act 50-ish type of a situation here. So to the extent that 2016 deals with DAS providers, you know, they don't, DAS providers would like to be exempt from municipal regulations, and that 2017 eliminate township's capacity to negotiate with,
Cable
okay.
providers.
So 2218, that's it's in the same context.
That's
Yep,
and all
that's
the
what
other
we're
things we're
dealing
not
with
thinking
Act
of.
50.
Yeah.
That's the
Well,
way I
in
read it
general,
through.
we want to have a say. So
Yeah.
we don't want them,
So
Yeah.
support, so support.
Okay, thank you.
yeah. Okay, you're clear on that one, Paul?
Yes.
19.
Yeah, this was again, a disagree with the opposition because the reason for action was bad. 2020 does the same thing, but it doesn't require it, it recommends it. You know, I could really go either way, it's fine. You know what I mean? It's like,
You know, what's crazy about this is I literally just had a discussion with my wife about this about 2 days ago because she was working, you know, and I'm like, I said to her, I said, do you ever remember having like local civics at all? You know, in school, you know, they taught you about everything else, but they never taught you about how it really worked. You know, the people that are your neighbors.
who plows the roads,
Yeah.
right?
It just happens.
Somebody
Yeah.
who speaks in the schools quite regularly, it does happen here, so.
Good, good.
But this, anyway, I'm fine with it either way, but I do think that the development of a civics and local government curriculum would be a very positive thing.
Something to offer.
Yes, absolutely. And making it mandatory, I'd be fine with that too.
Great.
Yeah, so I'm with you, Paul. I like, you know, making it more of a legislative thing rather than a recommendation.
So we do not concur with the resolution's opposition to that
We
one.
disagree with the opposition.
I
did.
do agree with the opposition. As somebody who works in a school and has done some teaching, that you could, and I've thought through this, of course, like when I first got elected, I thought through the same, but I mean, you could go all day on things that should be taught in schools that aren't like, it's an extensive list and teachers are getting a lot handed to them. So I think creating it and offering it is nice, but
But they're opposing that.
Well, they're opposing the mandate.
they're opposing the mandate.
They're opposing the mandate. If you look at 19 and
They
20
rewrote it.
together,
Yeah,
Right.
then they rewrote it to urge
Okay,
or encourage.
okay.
And to
Okay.
have already developed it.
So we support.
Well, that's me. I mean, I might
19,
be the minority.
the position of 19.
I still think it should be mandate. I mean, I think it needs to be written in, but that's just me. I would support a mandate. Because we do mandate civics.
Am I the tiebreaker?
Yeah,
Yeah, no, I mean, I support the mandate, yeah, legislation.
okay.
Yeah.
So the consensus of council is to disagree with the resolution's position. Okay? Let's see, where am I? We did 13, we did 14, we did 5.
23.
23, yes, thank you. Resolve the PSAT seek legislation to legalize adult use of cannabis, provided that such legislation allows for municipal land use decision-making on manufacturing, distribution, and retail facilities, as well as a mechanism to share tax revenue with municipalities. And, Paul, you
Yeah, I just
don't concur
Yeah,
with
I
their
think-
opposition.
Correct. I do think that it, seek legislation,
It's ready, you're ready for this one.
yeah.
Don't we already
I'm
have
trying
it?
to
Well,
legalize adult use
the
cannabis.
rationale.
Exactly, the kid did not feel
That's
this
it.
is a
The reason
township
for action,
issue.
that's it.
The audacity of the resolution committee to suggest for one moment that this is not
Yeah.
a municipal issue
Yeah,
When it
is,
says.
is
I oppose
beyond.
you.
just for that.
I'm so glad I got moved to the rules.
I object to your objection.
I mean,
I
it's
read that
just, it's insane. And I mean,
It's getting late, that was my thought too.
the point of the resolution really is, hey, Pennsylvania, you legislated this in. Municipalities have to deal with it. We deserve a cut of the tax that you're collecting.
And a voice in how it's done.
And/or, yes, right. The municipalities have a role. And so the opposition, I completely disagree
Yes.
with the opposition.
I think we have consensus on
I
that
disagree
one.
with the opposition, yes.
This is becoming political.
Just because we're not saying anything. No. 22-4, resolve that PSAT seek legislation to provide funding for all municipalities to complete sustainable Pennsylvania community certification, review existing municipal land development ordinances to enact legislation changes that would reduce carbon emissions and greenhouse gas, and conduct a review of municipal operations to implement policies that reduce carbon emissions and greenhouse.
Why would you oppose that, and based on the reasons given?
I'm surprised Bucks County brought it up, so.
Yeah.
Well,
yeah.
but then the resolution committee opposed Bucks County's recommendation.
Conducting a
I
review.
agree with Bucks County's
Yeah,
recommendation.
I do. I agree with the recommendation.
That was listed for me too. This is not an enforcement request. Nobody's gonna be reviewing your codes. This is specifically saying, hey, help us fund
What you're
reviewing our
making us to do.
ordinances and coming up with policies and helping us figure out what to do to meet these goals.
Because it said carbon emissions, it's an automatic.
Well, who knows?
Oh.
But my thought is, my honest thought is if it were worded more like 2231, it might have been a little bit easier to get through 2231, just saying, urge the state to commit permanent recurring funding for stream restoration and stabilizing programs. Like,
Good to the same
if it
thing.
were just to commit permanent recurring funding for townships to
Complete sustainable.
complete
Pennsylvania.
sustainability measures towards their own, something like, I think it might have
put
been
too
a little
much.
bit easier. I'm gonna give them the benefit of the doubt
Right.
that they were confused as to how this would be regular. They
Sure.
really were confused.
Well, they were into the weeds already,
Yeah,
and, yeah.
which we see happen when people
Yes.
have that gut reaction and
Yeah.
then they wanna go right to the weeds, but.
Right, and they assume what the weeds are.
Wait, are you still talking about that previous resolution?
24.
24.
I think we all concur.
Never mind.
We
disagree with the
We
opposition.
concur in
Never mind.
the disagreement, yeah.
Mike got it, but.
22-25, resolve that PSAT, it's too late. That PSAT seek legislation to prohibit discrimination in areas of employment, housing, and public accommodations based on sexual orientation, gender identity, or expression. We don't believe this is, okay. Do we even need to talk about that one? No. I concur with Paul.
And go Bucks County.
Yeah.
Am I right? Like, just for being a flat, just for doing it, just for, like so many times, it's just like, well, it's never gonna pass, it's not that kind of group, or townships in Pennsylvania, but I just laud them for putting them out there and going for it. So, good luck, Paul.
I will raise my hand proudly.
There it
along
is.
with Bucks County.
There it is.
Exactly.
We stand with Bucks County.
I was sitting here.
22-28, resolve that PSAT seek legislation to amend the Pennsylvania prevailing wage law to exclude activities that are currently classified as construction, but were previously classified as road maintenance from coverage by the act.
And 28 and 29 are basically, they go together in a group. And I'm personally a big supporter of unions. Adam and I had this conversation last year. I support prevailing wage, no matter where it comes from, and, I'm open to, this is a council decision, this isn't mine alone, but
Sure.
I would not support.
The only insight that I can give you is that with 28, there had been previously a classification of work that could be done outside of prevailing wage that was swept up or captured and became part of prevailing wage. And that has created some consternation for especially the smaller communities who don't have large or that don't expend a large amount of money on road projects. It has created extra costs for them. So I can understand that one. But yeah, as Paul said, he and I had talked about this before. My biggest beef, if you will, is it just simply needs to be modified and and brought up to date in terms of how prevailing wage is utilized, calculated and utilized.
Yes.
That is the issue.
And I guess that's how
That's not
I'm
what
reading
it's-
it.
And
That's not
what
what
it
this says.
Right.
Right, exactly.
I would agree with that. I think that's great. I mean, what was the act, 1961?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, it's terrible. It's a disservice to the taxpayers in its current
The way
configuration.
it's-
In its current configuration, yes. So if there was one that said, you know, update, modernize,
So I would disagree with the support for those two, but what is the consensus of council?
I think I heard Dustin
I'm-
agreed.
I have no,
I'm in agreement with Paul.
Okay, good deal. All right. Let's see, 34? Okay. Resolve that PSAT seek legislation to provide a state income tax deduction for active volunteer firefighters and fire police as defined by fire company bylaws and recognized by the supporting municipality. Who, I forget who. you
I
had
brought
that.
up
Dustin had this
34,
one.
35, and 36.
Okay.
And I bring them up just because it seems like someone's trying to get something through that's, you know, in this firefighter or fire police,
If-
you know?
If I might just
Yeah.
provide a little bit of context from my work on the Public Safety Committee, we, the volunteer fire and emergency services in Pennsylvania is in free fall. It has been decimated over basically a generation and a half. We've lost 9 out of 10 volunteer firefighters and EMS providers statewide. I mean, it is really a bare bones operation. So the recruitment, the retention, and the ongoing participation of volunteer firefighters and EMS personnel statewide is a crisis. And so I believe that anything that we can do to attract and retain them is probably well worth every penny that we would.
this has been something, yeah, that we've been pushing for a while, just to have some.
And
Another
I can
means to
share with
keep
you
the-
some of the
the
numbers,
system
but
glued
I think it went
together.
from 780,000 to like 78,000 people in
Yeah.
like just a little over 40 years. It's, and if you think about it, short of a place like Boalsburg Fire Company, which is amazing, the number of people that they have, the people that have been there for so long, and a lot of these small towns and rural communities, the firehouse used to be like the social hub of town.
Yep.
And everybody belonged and everybody participated, and that just is not the case anymore.
It isn't, and actually Boalsburg is the poster child for, that
For
it's
what-
not,
yeah.
that it's not happening.
I know, it's
Yeah.
remarkable that
Yeah.
we have that here, so I think we lose sight of the fact that when
Yeah.
you go out to some of these other places, that is just not
It's
the
even worse,
reality.
yeah.
Yeah, so, I didn't, you know, oppose your initial on this, because I mean, I know fully, you know, of that crisis and acknowledge it, and, you know, and know that we need these folks in the community, but I just can't get behind a tax deduction on it. That's just simply where I'm at on it.
Sure.
Yeah.
Okay.
Where do you?
I support
I
the
do
resolution.
as well, so,
You support.
Support the
You agree
resolution.
with the support?
yeah. yeah.
Okay, okay.
Not
Sorry.
including it in our disagree list. How about that?
Okay, fair enough.
38.
It's a good conversation and.
Resolve that
thank you. I just
PSATs
wanted to
urge
share
the State Department of Transportation to modify Title 67 of the Pennsylvania Code, Section 231-8.8, to exempt emergency service vehicles from the need to comply with pre-trip inspection requirements of when any firefighter with a CDL license is driving fire apparatus to an emergency call, provided that the emergency services chief employee signs a record certifying that the commercial motor vehicles under their control are always kept in a safe and ready state.
Yeah, so I brought this one up. I disagreed with Paul, and I disagreed with the support on it, because I feel like this could cause a public safety issue. Is this not in place for public safety, right?
Let's have public safety not be publicly safe.
Right.
Yes.
Yeah, that's how I read it. Yeah.
I have, as a retired motor sergeant, I have concerns with that.
Yeah, and that's, I think I'm coming from the same experience on you for signing off on, on the roadworthiness of
Yes.
vehicles, military vehicles and things
Yep.
on the road. Yeah.
Some might call it pencil whipping.
Well, because what happens then too is that fire chief might do that, hey, we need this, but now that liability falls on him.
Right. He
Yeah.
may not be
Her,
aware of something
right.
that the operator of
Yeah.
that could be
Yeah.
aware of, and he's on the
Yeah.
he or she is solely in the liability loop there.
I mean, I'd be open to it. I was thinking it through the lens of some of these smaller
No, I get-
municipalities
I get
that
it,
are just
but
really
it-
struggling with
it-
putting anything on the road.
Right, if we're,
I think you guys, if I can interrupt, this is with a CDL license. I don't have a CDL license. If I joined my local fire company and tested with the chief, I could drive that 80,000 pound gross vehicle weight vehicle without a CDL. I think what this is trying to do is separate out that if I am a CDL driver, I don't have to go through all this CDL pre-trip requirements. Because this is where the fire company
I get it,
falls under
I get
the
it.
federal motor carrier.
yep.
That's what this, I believe, is about. So the CDL driver does not have to do extensive pre-trip inspections before he jumps in and races off to a fire. When the non-CDL driver does not have those requirements under the federal motor
Because he doesn't
carrier.
hold the license.
Yes, it's,
Again, but a fire truck is,
Yeah,
Yeah,
this
I-
is, first off, I'm shocked that this is even in
Yeah,
here.
I'm surprised that.
Because the reality is, if you're a fireman and you're driving the truck and you get a call, you're not taking 5 minutes to walk around the truck. If everybody's there to get on and you
Better
have
not be.
everybody, you're going. So this is, that's why I believe Mark's 100% correct, because there is a liability for that CDL driver with the CDL license.
Yeah, they could lose their,
yeah, that's
They
what
could
this,
if they were involved
Okay.
In an accident or something.
in an accident. So, that's what this is. It's just to eliminate that possibility.
So
It's
the-
not
so
a
it-
readiness of the vehicle.
so it's saying that if a CDL driver is driving in the capacity of a firefighter, that they should be exempt from their CDL requirements?
correct.
To
Pre-trip.
inspect the
Correct,
truck.
because this calls out the driver with a CDL,
Yeah, right.
not just any driver who's certified by the fire chief to operate that apparatus.
I still have a huge problem with provided that the emergency services chief employee signs a record certifying that the commercial motor vehicles under their control are always kept in a safe and ready state.
Yeah, that's
I-
interesting, yeah.
I have an issue with that. I don't support that one,
I'll support it.
so.
You'll support what?
The support.
Support the
You
support.
agree with the support.
Right, and so
Split.
it took it, you are,
I can remain quiet on this one if we're tied 2-2, which is fine. Because now reading it again, I don't think that the service chief's employee is actually certifying that it's ready, just basically signing off on the CDL's holder's license, that it's always kept in a ready position.
no, they're not, it's the equipment, the commercial motor vehicles under their control. And knowing that these are voluntary chiefs, and I know they make a huge investment, but I just,
Okay.
it's
Yeah,
worked,
yeah, I
it's worked to
just-
this
yeah.
point.
I just disagree with support on it or oppose it because, I mean, I think because we're having such conversations, maybe that it could be a better resolution.
Well, there's
49
that.
out of 50, that goes.
Yeah, there's that.
Okay.
All right, 41. Well, actually, if you went neutral, it was 2-1. Okay, you abstained. All right, very good. 41, resolve that PSAT opposed legislation mandating a countywide collection of the real estate tax. And this was Dustin, right?
I just had a, open question on this one. That was all.
That's like,
Yeah.
Just, yeah, my take on this one is I disagree with the resolutions committee support. It's not that big of a deal, but all you have to do is look at the success that countywide collection has had with respect to EIT. And a similar success could be realized if you went to a single collector for.
At the county level,
Right.
agreed.
This was probably coming from a tax collector, so
Agreed.
That, yeah, and this
Did not want to
clearly
lose their
came
job.
out of
Yes.
the tax
Yes.
collectors committee
I'm sure.
that don't want to lose
Right.
it.
Oh, every year.
You know what I'm saying? These are tax collectors that are saying,
You
well,
have
if
the
it's
tax
mandated to
collector
collect, then
group
they
and the
lose.
real estate.
Then
Right,
they're out.
right.
And that's
They're,
an
they're
elected
collecting only real estate
Right,
right
right,
now.
right. No, I agree that there's much benefit to be had with the countywide, so if they're opposing it, then I don't concur with them, so.
Okay, so we switch that one to disagree with
Disagree with
support.
support.
If you would,
Okay.
yeah. Okay, 41, what are we now? 43. Resolve that PSATs seek legislation to prohibit the State Department of Transportation from requiring municipalities to accept responsibility for the maintenance and liability of sidewalks installed along state roads as a precondition for the installation or reconstruction of any sidewalk along a state road. Okay.
I tended to agree with it. I mean, I think Adam will
say, I
probably.
need
Yeah,
staff in
No,
here.
I agree with the supporting recommendation that is here. The reality is it's never gonna happen.
Exactly, yeah, but let's put that on record, that's how we'd like it to be. I mean, it's almost an unfunded mandate.
It is,
Correct, yeah.
it is, and
Yeah.
that's,
Oh, we get to the unfunded mandate somewhere in here, right?
Oh,
Oh,
I'm
you always
sure.
do.
Oh, yeah. Okay. 40
Crosshairs.
Oh, I'm sorry, 2241, I think I missed.
We did that one.
Oh, we did that one, okay, just didn't cross off,
43?
sorry. I did 43. I think I'm to 49.
49.
And
49 is resolved that PSATs urge redistricting efforts to preserve the principle of one person, one vote by placing municipalities entirely within the same legislative district as a community of interest in order to avoid situations where individual municipalities are divided into different legislative districts.
we've just gone through this whole redistricting process, and it's been beaten to death that sometimes it is more fair to split a municipality by precinct in order to be more representative of the voting population as a whole. It's,
Yeah.
again,
How does it? yeah,
this
how
is
does it
unfortunately
identify one
something
person?
that the legislature is, and the courts are heavily involved with, but I don't see where this makes any sense.
Well, how is this a township issue?
Well, because they're saying you split up my township.
She's on the rest of
You know, the
Oh,
I'm not
God,
the
it is
only
late.
one
Oh,
tonight,
you're
by
right.
the way.
Oh,
Okay.
by the way, Dustin.
But we can go on together. But I do wonder that question.
It's just about urging redistricting efforts, which is kind of pointless.
But not for your own municipality. Again, like, one person, one vote.
Yeah.
I agree with your non-support of
Okay.
their support.
Dustin,
I
you as well?
disagree with their
All right,
support.
cool. All right. Sold. 2250, resolve the PSAT seek legislation to amend the borough code to eliminate the ability to create a borough from a township of the second class.
Why would you support that?
Seek to amend.
Exactly.
That was my question.
But-
Why would you support? Why would you take away the ability to create a borough if it was appropriate?
Because you're gonna lose township members.
Right.
Well, yes, that's exactly right. And there's obviously some consolidation questions that are out there somewhere in the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania that have yet to be resolved, that somebody's hoping for some legislation that would preclude that.
So I
So,
disagreed with the support of that.
I agree with your disagreement of the
I
support
agree
of
with you,
that.
this guy.
And I agree.
I'm
with
gonna be
disagreement.
one, I'm gonna go tomorrow to work and just not be able to function in my normal world.
Perhaps next year, should I still be in the same position, I will reword this in such a way that I will figure out whether we're in agreement with the
Oh my
support
God,
or
I don't,
disagreement.
good luck. Good luck. It starts with the base
I think a
material.
spreadsheet is
I
involved.
think you should volunteer to be on the resolution.
College Township's gonna take over the resolution committee. We're gonna bring Mike, we're gonna have a vision,
hoping I'm
mission,
not in
and
that
goals.
position.
You're
We're gonna
always
vision,
involved.
missions, and goals. Hey, if we're in, you're in, mister.
You're like our mascot.
You're the sheriff. You're the sheriff.
People to the committees, how does that work?
Thank you all for your patience. I shall
No, that's
endeavor
awesome.
to accurately represent the.
Paul, if you would, could you, beef up, move everything out of the lower two into either, if you're silent on it, we concur with the resolution position.
Sure, you
and
want me
then
to just
list-
run back through?
Yeah, just, and send it out back out.
No, you
I'll
should
do
That
my
way,
best.
if anybody has any,
It's good.
then
They
we
love
can-
people. Just sign up.
it'll help you too.
Yeah.
So, okay.
We're good.
All right. I don't know if we're good, but we're here. Staff informatives, is there anything that staff wishes us to be informed upon? No.
Thank you,
Manager
staff.
says no. Council staff, other matters, anything for the good of the order?
I have, you
Please.
should have gotten your newsletters in your mailbox today.
Oh,
Get them?
I haven't checked.
I haven't been home.
Enough.
All right, look for it. They look great.
They smell good right
They
off the
smell
press.
good. They look great.
Are they still warm?
Pretty much were. The post office.
I propose a resolution that all newsletters should be warm when you receive them.
I,
I disagree with the opposition.
resolution committee would oppose to that, but I would disagree with their opposition.
All right.
Okay, we're getting punchy. If there is nothing else for the good of the cause, I will please accept the motion for adjournment.
I support adjournment.
Okay, I support it as well. We are adjourned, thank you.
Well done, everybody.
I'm glad we only do this once a year.